I am Lenathon, an island-hopping adventurer with a flamin' big farm. To complete 100%, I'll need to craft my way to glory, defeat tens of thousands of demon murlocs, collect hundreds of items and recipes, build a glorious home, play a degenerate amount of blackjack, and unravel the ancient mystery as to why all these islands are infested with void monsters. Welcome to 100% of Len's Island.
Here he is. Lenathon.
Len is definitely short for Lenathon. I enjoyed a cutscene explaining how the ancients found shiny lightstone. It proved to be a valuable resource, but it didn't end well. Fast forward to the modern age, things still weren't going well. But don't worry, here I am on a beach, ready to investigate the chaos. I began attacking bushes with my axe, which yielded up some fiber.
Oh, the game really does sort everything out for you.
Yes indeed, a very organized yet very empty inventory. I grabbed this wood off the beach, which earned a glorious achievement, and I grabbed a stone too before foraging for some blueberries. I worked out if you time your next swing when the white circle appears, you do extra damage.
If you time it, you get a crit. Okay. Ah! Bees! Bees!
Luckily, I survived the bee onslaught, and I unleashed vengeance on a barrel, which had some arrows in it. I had a whole range of tools available to me, so I pulled out my pick and had a crack at this clump of clay. Not far off, I found the town of Bridgewater. I had a look at the town board, where I discovered I was able to upgrade the town fairly cheaply. There were also a few shops, a hunter, a blacksmith, a gardener, and down at the dock, a fisherman.
I can jump like an absolute dingus.
I was getting some great height, no doubt. I murdered a rabbit, which dropped some rawhide, and...
F to build. Where do I build a house?
I decided to explore the island in search of a nice spot to build, and I soon found a big old door.
Activate. Map updated. Oh.
This was a very exciting development, but I was mainly interested in chasing rabbits, and I needed 45 clay, stone, wood, and fiber to upgrade the town, so I kept busy gathering resources. I found some roses, and stocking up on blueberries also seemed wise. Eventually, I crossed over to check out one of the markers that had appeared on the map. I found some marigolds, which I attacked, and some cluckers too.
Chicken? Chicken!
This thing here was a keystone, somehow magically attached to that other stone in front of the door. When I gave it a tickle, it aggressively knocked over the nearby pear tree. By the way, you can roll, and roll jump in midair too. So I was indulging freely. I returned to the door and saw that one of the 3 symbols was now lit up. And nearby I found a whole bunch of stones, but the symbols befuddled my uncultured mind.
No, I don't read that language.
Also, it was getting dark. I was only able to carry 50 of each resource, so by this point I was almost carrying as much as I was able. I whipped out my torch and headed over to the western map marker, where I found some pumpkins, which I of course collected, and there was an ancient tablet, which I studied.
Learn. Oh! Oh!
A foul spider-looking dark beast was attacking me, so I began swinging wildly, and it died fairly easily, but soon came another. I then worked out this thing with the glowy dots was a nest, from which the enemies were periodically spawning. I hacked into it, and it was soon destroyed. I did likewise to the second nest near this cave entrance, but I guess I wasn't very quick destroying it, because quite a few enemies spawned and my health got kind of low. But I got there eventually. I revisited the tablet, and by the look of it, it taught me 1/10 of the ancient language. And then I figured I'd better go check out the cave. Right near the entrance was the second keystone, so I activated it, and that pushed me up to level 1. I've been getting little dollops of experience for pretty much every action, from chopping trees to killing those enemies, and apparently activating the keystones. After hacking away at this iron node for quite a while, I earned a little more.
What is this? Iron shards.
My tummy had started grumbling, so I put the blueberries on my action bar and had a feast. I had to eat 5 to fill my belly. And then I had a decision to make. Would I skill into farming, crafting, assassinating, or exploring? Obviously, to unlock the skills in the corners, you have to invest in that direction. So I perused my options before picking up Skilled Explorer, which added 10% damage and a 50% chance to double fish and meat yield. But the main reason I chose this was because it worked towards getting some mobility unlocks once I leveled deeper into the Explorer tree. I was pleased to note that the 10% damage increase applied to my mining, which helped me collect my first 6 chunks of coal. And after collecting for a little while longer, it became clear that this cave network was enormous. I decided I'd save exploring it for later. And since the game's called Lenathon's Island, I had it in my head that there'd be one island. But by the look of this enormous map, there were most likely quite a few other islands beyond this one.
Is that a murloc?
It did indeed appear to be a ferocious demon murloc, which I chopped out with my axe, before realizing that wasn't exactly optimal for combat, so I switched to my sword, which was a lot faster. It was also clear that I was going to need to use my dodge roll in order to minimize damage taken.
This weird entrance here is probably going to open up, right? And then the town's there, so I think if I build here by the river.
These wood foundations cost just 2 wood and 1 stone, so I was already able to build a pretty juicy base, if I so desired. And lucky for me, when you disassemble stuff, 100% of the resources are returned, because I am quite an indecisive builder. My first adjustment was to ensure the foundation was suitably high off the ground. I kept busy building, and as day 2 dawned, I chopped down this tree, which fell directly onto my house. It was not a good display of lumberjack hijacking. It was no big deal though, as I whipped out my repair hammer and did some of these ones. As you can see, I wasn't going for the most ambitious dwelling you could imagine. I was mainly just being obedient to the tutorial quest, which was insisting I build a house. Soon enough, I was beholding this most glorious structure, and with that, part 1 of the tutorial was knocked over. I next placed down a workbench.
I can upgrade it with 40 wood and 2 salvaged metal. I can make a backpack, that's good. I need coins.
I placed a bed and a storage container. I made the bed my spawn point, and after getting this clay out of the way, I popped down a campfire. I used one of the iron shards I'd gathered in the mines to make an anvil, at which upgrading stuff was possible.
What do I need for that? 1 iron shard, 3 fibers, 10 wood. Easy.
And so I upgraded my sword into an iron sword. Meanwhile, I was rather hungry, so I started taking damage. I quickly munched on a few blueberries to deal with that problem. Since I was limited to carrying at most 50 of each resource, I emptied my key materials into the storage container so I could collect some more. Also, I randomly had sapphires. I think I found them in the clumps of clay. I needed 2 tanned leather to upgrade my backpack, and I of course really wanted a bigger backpack, but I was at a loss as to how to get the leather, so I wandered around trying to figure it out.
Oh, here we go. This idiot told me what I need to do. If you cook rawhide over campfire, it turns into tanned leather.
I sold some flowers to the gardening shop, 1 gold per rose and 1 gold per marigold. 5 blueberries sold for just 2 gold, but I figured why not? Although that was my main food source, so I'm not sure that was the wisest move. I then revisited the town board and remembered I was supposed to be saving up for a town upgrade. So that inspired a collecting spree, where I roamed the island shoving every variety of loot I could find into my bag. I then realized all I needed to do to complete part 3 of the tutorial was to enter the mines via the town's entrance. So I wandered in. That other mine's entrance I'd found earlier was over there on the map.
Caves are huge, dude. Ooh, glowing stuff over. Ooh, slimes? Cube slimes? What on earth?
The quest wanted me to go activate the 3rd keystone, but there was a big cave full of loot. I'd somehow mostly resisted it before, but this time it sucked me in a bit. This coal rock leveled me up, so I picked up efficient roller, which reduced my roll cooldown by 30%. And as I continued on my way, I discovered these lights could be lit with just 1 coal. So I figured I'd do that as a way to indicate to future me that I'd explored this way already. Upon reflection, I think this was just a waste of coal, but at least the cave's ambiance was mildly improved. Meanwhile, I focused on collecting a good pile of iron shards and coal, and once I had my fill, I headed upstairs for some renovations. I added a door at the back because I couldn't be bothered running around the front.
Yeah, I made this too fancy. Like, get rid of this. Get rid of this.
Clearly the house was way too fancy. I just wanted a simple workshop, so fair enough, I guess. I soon had it looking like this, nothing too fancy. I discovered both my pickaxe and axe could be upgraded using just 1 iron shard for each, and I realized the campfire had a list of recipes, so I learned 3 rawhide would become 1 tanned leather. As it happened, I had 3 delicious rabbit rawhide, so I got the campfire blazing and soon had my first tanned leather.
Boom, upgrade the town to level 2, 45 fiber, clay, wood, and stone. I get 40 gold for that? Oh yes. That's what I'm talking about. Repaired warp portal, allowing for teleportation to other portal locations. I think I've got to upgrade my backpack twice to do that. I need to be able to carry 150 of each. Come here. Come here.
It was time to harass the wildlife. Also, I think the moose kicked me with its hind legs.
I've got the 100 rolls achievement. Come here.
My hunting skills were quite majestic.
Getting some good meat from these guys as well. Come here, big moose.
And that was a decent haul of rawhide. Great news.
Oh, it's different fishies type here? Okay, interesting. Dude, the moose keeps kicking me. What a beast.
I returned home and put 17 rawhide on to cook, except it appeared fiber was a bad choice for fuel, so I swapped some wood in there instead. Wood famously burns slightly slower than leaves.
Alright, 50 gold, 20 fibers, 10 leather. Adventurer's backpack. Boom. Salvaged metal.
With that backpack upgrade, I was now able to carry 100 of each item, up from 50. I put some meat on to cook, and finding salvaged metal was definitely high on the agenda. Also, I caught on fire.
What is going on here? Crab army.
I found a barrel, so I whacked it and out popped salvaged metal. Great news.
I need to build a bridge. Bridge. Oh, wait. Oh, I can repair it. I see. Just like that, huh? Can I get 1 tree to fall over and knock over like 2 other trees? Boom. Boom. Oh, almost. Dominoes. Yes. Oh, triple. We got the triple dominoes!
After that glorious feat, I collected a while longer before crossing the bridge to the 3rd and final keystone.
2 barrels is good. Give me more scrap. Scrap. Oh, so much scrap. 14.
I activated the keystone, and with that, the dungeon back down south was ready to be unlocked. With its door now wide open, part 4 of the tutorial was done, and part 5 instructed me to head into the dungeon and complete it. I went and grabbed some cooked meat first, which heals a respectable 15 health, as well as restoring 4 hunger stomachs.
Upgrade to level 1. Here we go. Fletching table for arrows. A wooden raft. No way. A void chest. I need 50 void boogers though?
Yes, indeed. Quite a few new crafting options were now available to me. me. But clearly, the most exciting thing I could possibly do was employ my ingenious Domino's wood collecting technique.
Oh, we got a triple. Oh, we got a 4 in a row. Huge.
The workbench upgrade had unlocked a few weapon recipes, so after a session at the anvil, I was the proud owner of a new spear, shield, and hammer.
What's the upgrade look like? I need hardened steel for the next upgrades. Got like a shield block kind of situation with Q, and then my E. Oh, there was an E move the whole time with my sword. I didn't even notice. With the spear, it's a massive spinny strike. With the hammer, a big honka chonka. I can hold the shield and the torch in one hand. Nice.
I finally figured out where the sapphire vendor had showed up. It was Lucky Jack here, who also let me know about some useful locations I could venture to over the sea. I'd been hoping the sapphires would sell for more than just 3 gold, but at that disappointing price, I decided to hang on to them. Also, you can play blackjack with Jack.
Hit. You scammed me, Jack. Oh, you get a roll cooldown penalty if you got the shield. Interesting. So it's double the cooldown roll.
I like rolling, so I decided I wasn't going to use the shield for now. I then played an unhealthy number of blackjack rounds, betting a whopping 2 gold at a time.
I think I lost a lot of money from that gambling session. Probably not a good thing.
But a fishing rod only costs 10 gold, so I was able to afford that at least.
Use the move. Boom!
I picked up Elite Explorer, which gave a 20% sailing speed bonus and meant I could now detect artifacts on the map. I wandered around looking for another of those fishing spots I'd seen earlier. I got distracted by a lot of clay on the way, and I had no luck whatsoever.
I give up. Can I just cast anywhere?
You can of course cast anywhere. I think the fishing spots just guarantee you'll hook certain fish. The minigame is simple. Click when you see the white circle. I did not click, and therefore I lost my first fish. I successfully timed my click on the next cast. However, I thought that'd be it. Not so. The minigame continued, and I was supposed to click again, and so I lost my second fish.
Wait for it. Click again. Click again. Okay. Okay.
And so I earned a fishy achievement, as a sardine was now at my mercy. By the way, I was stockpiling quite a lot of stuff, thanks to constant collecting.
Alright. In we go.
I found the loading screen into the cave was quite welcoming, and so my heart was full of joy as I took my first look at the ancient caves. I was even more joyous when I found some coins on this table. I began with the hammer as my weapon of choice, and as you can see, I missed my first big woofer attack, so that wasn't a great start. But in general, I am a fan of slower, big hitting weapons like this.
Hold on. Dude, what the heck?
Alas, I changed to the spear immediately. I crossed this bridge to find another of those spawners, though this one was bigger. It wasn't a little spider idiot spawner, it was a demon murloc spawner. I poked it with my long stick until it was no more. These void creatures drop void essence, these glowy purple orbs. It's a valuable resource that I was pleased to get my hands on. Speaking of voids, this treacherous path seemed to float above an endless void. Spooky stuff. This was my opportunity to get some combat practice in, and the spear was great at getting hits in from range, allowing plenty of time for effective dodge rolls. Not that rolls were really necessary against a single murloc, as my spear pokes seemed to stagger the poor dinguses.
Oh, it's a big boy. Ah! What the heck, man? Whoa!
The big boy had a rather disturbing mouth, a rather impressive spiky move, and a big boy jump and slam move.
Whoa! Okay.
His attacks were well telegraphed, so I didn't have much trouble rolling away to safety each time. And as I mentioned earlier, this game is called Lenathon's Island, so for some reason I thought I'd just be chilling on an island, not in a creepy void dungeon.
We beat the big boy. That's pretty cool. Usually in like survival craft attack games, the combat ends up just like kind of sucking. Oh dear.
Yeah, survival crafters often drop the ball on combat, but the ARPG vibe of Lenathon was pleasing me so far.
Woohoo! Get spun on, idiots. You can't even get me on the stairs. Oh dear. That was not the play.
Yeah, as I said, there's an endless void there. It begs the question, why did I roll straight into it? Thankfully, the game showed mercy and returned me to safety, after taking a mere 10 HP away. I ate to heal up, and I should explain, when your belly is full, a healing buff is applied, so you periodically regenerate a decent chunk of health. This kept me in good stead as I fought my way along this bottom area, where a rather large quantity of spider idiots awaited me as they popped out of the spawners. All those little creepers helped me knock over an achievement.
Kill 100 enemies.
And finally, I was done with pest control, and it was time for booby traps. There was a bit of a delay before the bolts came flying out of the wall, so the key was simply to be quick about it. I grabbed some mushies, and I continued along to this area where there were 2 murloc demon spawners to take down. As mentioned earlier, you can secure critical hits by timing each subsequent attack properly. You click when the white circle appears. I was not very good at this with the spear, apparently. When you successfully crit, the circle flashes in a yellowy burst. I think I only timed about 15% in this particular fight, but at least I didn't roll into the void again. By the way, according to the intro cutscene, these monsters are ancient ancient humans corrupted by the light. Perhaps I was poking my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather with a spear. Before long, I arrived at a funky, shimmery wall, and once I passed through it, an encounter began. The dungeon crossing. What? I was trapped in a fight to the death, and as you can see, a new variety of void monster had appeared. A rather large pew-pew frog. There were also 3 Murloc demon spawners to deal with, so it was a bit of a spicy one. This was definitely a case of, oh crap, I believe I may be in over my head. But I rolled and attacked when I felt I had a spare second.
Are you serious, bro? How the heck?
With my next big spear spin, the first spawner went down, easing the pressure, and it took down the pew-pew frog as well. I also nearly died, so I munched on some meat to get some health back.
Wait, did I accidentally kill the big guy? I think I killed the big guy.
I'd chosen to focus on taking out the spawners first, so I'd been somewhat ignoring the big guy, except to dodge his attacks. So I was surprised my spins had taken him out as collateral. But with that, the danger had passed, and I successfully completed my first dungeon encounter. I was now free to make my way towards my prize.
There's a dog in here?
There were also some barrels, so I poked those first.
Hello, doggy. Tame. I got a doggy.
A doggy was most welcome. It trailed behind me as I continued into this final room.
Ooh.
That was an achievement, and multiple shinies which my new dog helped pick up, including my first lightstone. I warped out of there and checked out the quest menu. I'd knocked over the tutorial, and now the world had opened up to me. I had several acts to play through, and plenty of other quests on top of that. By the look of my map, another island awaited me in the east. I hit level 4.
Definitely get the move speed and the jump height.
A most excellent skill.
Go dog. Go dog, collect the infinite wood.
I investigated some of my other building options and placed down a few farm plots right next to my house. But when I went to craft a watering can, I discovered I had no iron shards left, but I planted anyway. The pear seed took up a whole plot on its own, but the pumpkin, marigold, rose, and blueberry seeds didn't take up as much space. 9 could fit in each square. I planted all I had and headed down to the mines, where I immediately saw something marked on the map.
I think it's because of my explorer perk that shows me where ancient stuff is.
I realized I could build down here, and I chose to build a platform across a tiny gap I could have easily jumped. And I was of course on a mission to collect iron shards. But I didn't say no to mushrooms or coal either. I built some stairs with which I reached the top of this cliff, and up there many goodies awaited me.
Ooh. I learned how to make a mahogany chair.
That chair is what had been marked on the map, a wonderful artifact. I bridged the gap over to this slime area, and I'd reverted back to the sword by this point, so I used it to kill these cubey slimes before attempting to mine these big slime boogers, only to discover my pickaxe's tier was too low. So that was that for now, I guess, and I continued roaming in search of stuff that I was able to mine. As I wandered, I was alerted that a harvest moon would rise tonight, and just then I spied a whole underground village up ahead.
It's massive down here, man.
It was indeed massive down here, and as I pressed forward, there were multiple ways I could go. The thorough completionist in me wanted to explore absolutely everywhere, so this was a slow process involving the occasional fight against the void, and of course, constant mining. Before long, I had over 20 iron shards and over 80 coal. And then I approached the stone village to discover it was rather infested.
Look at these big boys. Oh my gosh, this place is nuts. Run?
Yeah, I guess those are the big version of the little spider idiots, and they hurt. My health began regenerating as I fled, but I probably should have munched on a few more mushrooms to top up to full.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that was not good.
Cleaned up in one hit from half health to 0, and I of course respawned back at my bed. And after getting squished by that spider, I figured it'd be wise to buy some leather armor from the blacksmith. However, I needed tanned leather too, so it was time to chase some more deer. This was not exactly a graceful way to hunt, but by evening I was cooking up some rawhide, and then I was informed the promised harvest moon had risen.
A harvest moon rises. Evidently, that's got something to do with the crops, which makes a lot of sense. The crops haven't even been watered, so that's a bit of a problem, I think. What the heck, dude? Get out of my house. No Murlocs allowed. Oh, that's a big boy. Wait, what? Not the big boys. Oh, they're shooting. Dude, what is going on?
This is how I learned that the harvest moon makes the void monsters a little frisky, and it causes way more of them to spawn. I was not a fan of angry pew-pew frogs trying to knock down my workshop.
Dude, I need to sleep through the night. Sleep.
So that was how I conquered my first harvest moon with the power of a soft pillow. This lump of clay reappeared, along with many of the trees in the area, so that confirmed resource nodes respawn, and my tanned leather was ready, so I was able to purchase a new hat.
Whack the leather helm on your head, big fella.
This added plus 5% crit damage and 1.5 armor, and that was 1 out of 55 for the wearable collection. I checked if the helmet could be upgraded, but no. I hunted more animals so I could stock up on more leather, and I found a fishing spot in a pond, so I cast a line. This catch introduced a new element to the fishing minigame. Sometimes the circle is red, and you must not click when it's red. This rude trick bamboozled me the first time, but I soon caught my first bluegill. On my next catch, I somehow snagged 6 bluegill at once, and on the next 3 more. I think these multipliers were thanks to the generosity of the fishing spot. The spot ran out once I had 11 bluegill total, and I headed straight to the fish shop to see if I could sell them. I could indeed, for 2 gold each, so that wasn't too bad for some early game hustle. I sold 12 rawhide for 1 gold apiece, which wasn't exactly a good deal, but I was determined to buy more armor. I found another fishing spot, so I had a session, and it's not a hard fishing minigame by any stretch, but it does require you to concentrate, timing the clicks and ignoring the red. Therefore, it was a hard minigame for me, because I am famously bird-brained. Goose-brained, if you will. I harvested wild bloobs too, anything for gold, and I soon had over 60 again, with which I bought the leather chest piece, which provided the same stats as the helmet. I put 23 more venison from my hunting session onto cook, and now that I was equipped with some armor, I returned to the mines to collect my dropped loot. It was quite a long run south to get back to the site of my untimely demise. Once there, I found a big spider was guarding my dropped bag, and I was off to a bad start when it whacked me immediately, dealing huge damage despite my improved armor. I whipped out my spear hoping to poke from a distance, and that worked pretty well for me, aside from that first hit, and so I was able to retrieve the juicy haul of loot. I hit level 5 and unlocked Skilled Hunter, giving a 50% chance to double fish and meat collected.
There's some shiny rocks over there. I don't think I'll be able to collect them, honestly.
I was correct in that assessment, so it was a good choice not to bother heading towards the shiny rocks. I continued lighting lamps to mark my passage. I kept iron shard collection as my top priority, and once I had a few more, I figured I might as well head out through here. I popped out on a small island southeast of my home, where I fought a few voidies and collected some materials. But most exciting was the opportunity to construct my first wooden raft. I hopped straight on and off I went.
Whoa, is that an ocean current? That's the main island over there. This ocean current is nuts.
There were quite a few ocean currents zooming off in outrageous directions, but I managed to cross this one as I headed towards a new island.
We're making our way to new lands now, man.
Since you receive 100% of the materials back, I disassembled the raft, as I figured I'd just make a new one when I needed it. It was pretty much a pocket raft situation. This island was of a decent size, and there was a town here.
Hello? Tarragon Town.
There were a couple of stores here and a town board, and just outside town, I found quite a lot of lavender and some pumpkins to collect. I'd been collecting random glass bottles off the beach since day one, and while causing a ruckus, my dog picked up another, earning the collect 20 glass bottles achievement. I then arrived at the entrance of another locked dungeon, where I took out some void beasts and their nests, and I activated this obelisk. I next needed to activate 3 more keystones around the world, all on different islands by the look of it. To upgrade the Tarragon Town board, I needed 75 hardwood, but I discovered my piddly axe was unable to crack into these big boy trees. I suspected they were withholding their hardwood from me. I performed an acrobatic feat to learn a new item.
Medieval shield.
And the barrels here had a whopping 13 salvage metal, so that was juicy. When I swung the camera low, I spied a nearby island, so I went for a dip and unleashed a rather impressive breaststroke. And while swimming, I spotted another desert island looking situation not far off. I found some cotton, a most useful plant, so I collected as much as I could and was pleased to see quite a lot of seeds drop. And there was no reason not to collect all the flowers on the island. I ended up with over 60 lavender, so it was quite an aromatic time.
What's going on over here? Wait, what is going on over here? There's some big boys. Yeah, I don't think I should go over there.
I pulled out my pocket raft and returned to the Tarragon Town Island.
Don't mind if I do. I got the perk, so I should be able to catch extra, right?
I had a relaxing fishing session, and it became clear each fish has its own specific catch pattern. A bluegill simply involved a few white circles in a row, but this rainbow trout was a little more complicated.
You actually got to concentrate for this crap. Okay.
After fishing that spot clean, I sold a copious amount of lavender back at the town, and I was tired of having to travel the world every time I wanted to sell stuff. If only I had Odoo to help me set up my own store so I could make them come to me. Yes indeed, big thanks to Odoo for sponsoring the video. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that provides entrepreneurs a range of applications from invoicing to accounting to project management to inventory to website building, and the list goes on. Odoo Point of Sale Shop would be the perfect tool to set up Len's farm shop. It features self-ordering, so from a kiosk or from their smartphones, clients can do everything by themselves, from the order to the payment. That saves you some time and effort, and it spares your clients the terror of social interaction. There's a bunch of loyalty programs you can offer your clients as a way to improve their shopping experience and keep them coming back. Loyalty cards, coupons, promotions, and gift cards. Cross-channel selling is available too, streamlined so that click and collect can be offered without any chaos, as clients will be able to order online and pick up in store. And preparation displays allow you to prepare large orders in advance. Point of sale is crucial crucial to any shop, and Odoo makes it smooth. It works like a charm across devices, tablets, laptops, desktops, and industrial machines. Offline payments are automatically synchronized when you're reconnected. You can manage several cashier accounts and secure them with badges or PIN codes. Invoicing is flexible, print them on the fly or send them via email or QR code. And integrated payments means you can accept any payment method in an instant. Your first Odoo app is completely free for life for unlimited users, so click the link below and try Odoo today. Alright, back to Lenathon, where selling all that lavender helped me buy some new armor.
Let's buy the druid's braces.
According to the tooltip, it provides 1 healing every 60 seconds, which is absolutely terrible, but it also provided 1 armor, so it was better than nothing.
Oh gosh. What the hell was that?
After being struck by a bolt from Zeus, I made it back to my home island and immediately found a sea fishing spot, so I of course couldn't resist. The first one on the hook had no red circles, but it had heaps of white ones at random timings. It was a swordfish. And the next one was chaos. White and red circles willy-nilly, bombarding the senses, stretching me to my gamer god limits.
I've never had to concentrate so hard in my life to do anything. Puffer fish? How much money worth of fish is this gonna be?
That was the point of my fishing. Money making. And it was pretty much the point of the farming too, as I enjoyed my first harvest.
Oh, I can just go plant all like a madman. Look at this. Plant all. Plant all. Plant all. Oh my gosh. How much? What did I just plant? I don't even know. I got more seeds. I need more farms. What do you want? What else do you want from me? Plant the cotton actually. That's quite a lot of cotton, that's good.
And soon all my seeds were in the ground.
Look at the farm coming along.
I discovered this fella was selling the other 2 pieces of leather armor.
The Fugu sells for 9 and I got 4. The Rainbow Chart sells for 10, I got 1.
I bought the leather greaves, so I now had something equipped in every armor slot.
Armor's up to 5 out of 8.
I finally made a watering can, and when I attempted to fill it up, I ended up being a goose in the river.
Why am I watering the... I'm watering the river.
I then successfully watered the crops, except they didn't actually need watering thanks to the recent thunderstorm.
Okay, let's upgrade to level 2 workbench.
This unlocked quite a few things, including the smelter, which was quite costly, requiring 15 iron shards and 20 metal salvage.
Iron shards plus metal scrap, I can make steel.
Thanks to my farming efforts so far, I completed my first farming quest, which rewarded me with 5 road seeds, so I planted those, and then I had a session topping up my wood supply.
Let's get a wood storage pile there.
I built a stone storage pile too, and both of these used up some void essence. Harnessing the void, they were able to transcend the usual physical limitations, which I tested out immediately.
And then if I put this 65 wood in, 205 total. This one now has 205 total. And then if I destroy this, this still has 205. Okay.
This was very handy, as it meant I could plonk one of these down anywhere, dump all the wood out of my bag, and disassemble it. It was pretty much cloud storage. The fact that I could now do this inspired me to stock up on materials, so I did a loop of the island collecting. The pear tree had fully grown, so I topped it down, which returned 3 seeds and of course some pears. Upgrading the workbench and building the smelter had completely used up my metal salvage, so I couldn't make use of the smelter. Therefore, I disassembled it and used the metal to make a loom instead. I shoved the 23 cotton I'd collected in there, added some coal to fuel it up, and it was set to produce 4 cloth. I needed 5 cloth for the next backpack upgrade, so it was just as well I had a healthy cotton crop in my farm next door. But the key thing I needed was yet more metal salvage, so that I could make steel ingots and upgrade my tools and weapons again. And the best way I knew of to find metal salvage was by bashing up barrels, so off I went in search of barrels. I found a second ancient tablet on this island, and a blessed barrel gave me some metal.
I'm not one to miss an opportunity to fish, dude.
For some reason my cast refused to land in the fishing spot, so this was a bit goofy.
Am I going crazy? 2 swordfish, 16 gold, baby. Okay, finally I'm actually getting it in there. This current is strong. That's a strong current. Definitely run into these barrels. 6 more. If I just cruise around looking for barrels, there's another barrel. Yeah, if I hit the barrels keep giving me sick resources. You want to fight, shark? You want to fight? Get some. If you do this, you can see the barrels really far away. This is a genuine hack to find barrels. Put the horizon low. That one had bananas in it? Banana barrel. Donkey Kong? Stop giving me arrows. I want metal scrap. Stop giving me bananas. I want metal scrap.
I stopped off at this island where I attacked pumpkins and lavender. I wanted all the seeds, and this is where my quest said a keystone was located. But I couldn't interact with this thing. It seemed I had to venture into the darkness first.
Forgotten markets. Oh dear.
And so I was back into the fray, dodging about like a maniac and slowly taking out the void beasts that chased me to and fro. It was nice to see that I took way less damage thanks to my armor. Not only were there barrels here, but there were also big crates, so the metal salvage was coming in nicely.
I mean, could I just open these chests or do I have to brutalize them?
This dungeon didn't introduce any new beasties, but it was an opportunity to continue getting acquainted with the combat, and my approach was kill any nests first, dodge a lot, and use my sword's active ability on cooldown. I leveled up, and it seemed the assassin skills were my next best bet, so I grabbed this +5 health node in order to work my way down there, and I carried on slashing.
I feel like I haven't found as many scraps as I wanted. 48's not bad. Lots of voidlings. Sure is.
I believe the correct term is Demon Murloc.
Oh yeah.
This was the final encounter of the dungeon, and it was a little bit spicy, but as long as I kept it dodgy, the dinguses couldn't land too many hits. And so I whittled down the spawners and was eventually victorious.
The void essence stacks to over 100 for some reason.
It says it's massless in the tooltip, so that explains it.
Give me some of that loot, baby. Ooh, okay. A chest piece? Knight's chest plate. It's 1 full extra armor and +5 health bonus.
I gave up 5% crit damage, but I figured the tankiness was worth it. I activated the keystone, 1 out of 3 knocked over, but I was rudely not provided with a portal, so I had to bounce my way out.
Chance to double dark essence harvested. 25% bonus crit hit damage. Oh crap, I'm under attack.
Yeah, maybe don't look at your skills while Demon Murlocs are clawing at your buttocks. That was an awesome skill unlock though. Once I emerged, I saw the obelisk outside was now active, and I could spend 75 Void Essence to curse the dungeon.
Cursed dungeon. Complete the ancient caves dungeon in cursed mode.
This was not the ancient cave, but I couldn't resist. I cursed it up, and it was a rather dramatic affair. And so I entered the markets again, except this time they were cursed. I figured it was safe to assume this meant it would be harder, and that was soon proven true.
Oh my gosh. I don't know about this one. They're healing a lot.
There was no way I could outdamage the constant healing, and I wasn't sure how to stop the heals, so I went into full-blown panic mode.
Can I run? Let me out. I've made a mistake. I made a mistake.
I think it's fair to say my first foray into a cursed dungeon was not particularly successful, as I was swarmed and munched to death. Thankfully, I was able to respawn at the dungeon entrance, and I somehow pulled off a miracle to loot back my dropped items without activating the encounter.
I somehow got it. Okay, run.
I figured I'd save the cursed stuff till later.
Get some. Get some, idiot.
As you can see, I'd bought a bow by this point, and obviously it was time for some shark hunting.
Oh, 18 damage. Huge.
The shark had a rude habit of swimming away.
Oh, I fell in the water. That's not good. Oh, he was coming for me. He was coming for me. You can't get me on the raft though, can you big dingus?
This took a fair while and about 24 arrows. I picked up the whole dang shark and placed it in my inventory. I sailed over to this random island, and there wasn't much here besides a cave entrance. I figured I needed to farm a few more iron shards, so why not? Down in the caves, I was on the northern edge of what I'd explored so far. And of course, there was nothing to do except get on the move, collecting up a tsunami, bridging gaps, lighting lanterns, and slapping the odd demon murloc in the face. It was quite a productive session.
Oh, this is where I can get a bunch of limestone? I can't get the limestone either.
Yeah, I needed a pickaxe upgrade in order to collect limestone. So I was beginning to think I should have had to stop off for some anvil work before coming down here again. But now that I was down here, I couldn't help it.
Just trying to rehabilitate the entire mines, you know what I mean?
When I got into a fight against 3 murloc spawners, I earned the achievement for decimating 500 void creatures. 500 already, holy moly.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not finding iron that fast. Iron is actually reasonably rare.
I soon emerged on another random island, which I picked clean. I was enticed into a fishing session, and then I got busy floating with momentum.
Make sure you crash into any barrels. Metal, please. Oh, bananas. Give me bananas. The Ignite rune or the holographic rune? I want the holographic rune. That sounds interesting.
That's an enchanting thing, which I got into later, but I literally never used the holographic rune. I continued ramming into floating barrels, and it was genuinely up there as one of the fastest ways to collect metal salvage. Doing dungeons was the other good option. But soon I was back on my home island where I sold some fish, including 48 gold worth of pointy nose fish. I bought the treasure map blueprint from old mate Pirate Beard. I bought the bait box recipe. I sold a ton of flowers, and then I was under attack because a harvest moon had risen and the void beasts were feeling frisky. I wasn't about that smoke, so I had a snooze to shoo the dark away. And in the morning, farming duties. Pretty much as soon as I watered these crops, they blossomed, ready for harvest. It was majestic. I got busy harvesting, which was a bit of a slow process as I plucked them one by one. So I got fed up and crafted a scythe. This made things slightly quicker.
That's what we want. Alright, beautiful. Now I want to plant cotton as priority.
So that's what I did. And I also built these lattices on which I was able to plant some passion fruit, the seeds for which I'd found in a barrel in the market dungeon. I put today's cotton harvest in the loom to make some more cloth, and I had enough metal to make another smelter, into which I placed all my iron shards and metal salvage.
Make as many hardened steel as we can. Should be able to make 10.
I had some venison cooking, but I wanted to tan some leather too. So I made another campfire and plonked the 26 rawhide I'd stolen from an elk on there. Before long, I collected my first 3 hardened steel.
I think I upgrade my pickaxe first. 3 hardened steel.
Once I grabbed some wood from the cloud, I used my anvil to upgrade the pickaxe to tier 3. I placed down a metal chest, this is cloud storage for metal, and once some cloth and leather was ready, I upgraded my bag, increasing the stack limit up to 200. Once the smelting was done, I had another 7 hardened steel to work with, and it seemed an easy choice as to how to use them. Upgrade the axe, so I'd hopefully be able to collect hardwood, and upgrade my current weapon of choice, the sword.
It's got an extra move now. It's got the same E move, but then it's got an R move as well. Oof.
And of course my axe was hitting harder than ever, so trees were felled faster than ever. Every crafting session seemed to burn through a few hundred wood, so I had a decent chopping spree to restock once again. Now that I was able to carry more than 150 of each item, the next Bridgewater town upgrade was within reach. Except I needed more fiber, so I had to attack some bushes for a bit.
Boom. Max level reached. Okay. This waypoint is active? Wait, what? This waypoint isn't even active, but it worked. I'll allow it.
Yeah, no arguments here. I needed to visit the Tarragon Island so that I could unleash aggression on these big honkin' trees. Because as we all know, big honkin' trees produce hardwood.
Yeah, there we go. We're getting some hardwood.
Sadly, my tree dominoes strat wasn't as effective on the big trees, because a falling tree only deals 200 damage to other trees, and apparently these trees had more health than that. I wanted to stock up, so I kept at it for quite a while.
I can do a pagoda building now with all the hardwood.
Once I was full up, I plonked down a wood pile, dumped the wood, and kept on going.
Okay, upgrade to level 2. Ooh.
That added a decoration store to the town. I'd had my fill of hardwood, but I needed a little more stone for the next upgrade, so I dipped into the mines for a bit. And my pickaxe collected coal, iron, and of course stone faster, so that was lovely. The final Tarragon town upgrade used up the 1 lightstone I'd found at the end of the first dungeon.
The town looks sick. They got fairy lights. What more could you ask for?
And the warp stone was now functional in both directions.
What do you got for me? Oh, you got a bunch of blueprints?
The decorative stuff could wait till later, once I was rich. For now, it was time to flex my new pickaxe.
Limestone. Can I get limestone now? I can.
I mocked up what the island had to offer.
Wait. I just discovered something. My upgraded axe has a new move. Boom. Boom.
I then noodled over to this treacherous looking island, and I had just one question.
This is a bad idea.
These 3-fingered, quillback, no eyeball, big teeth looking monstrosities were much harder to dodge, compared to what I was used to.
Oh, they're doing a lot of damage actually. May well be a bad idea.
Lucky for me, they were unable to swim. Once my health had regenerated a bit, out of the shallows I burst with some sword play, and then back into the ocean, and out of the shallows with vengeance once more. Once they were down, I was able to claim a bit more limestone, and I took out this pest nest using my pickaxe.
I think I may be getting ahead of myself here.
I definitely wasn't confident taking on those sand slashes in a proper head-on fight, so after casting a line, I took my leave. I sold 75 gold worth of lavender at the Tarragon market, and then it was back into the mines, where I wanted to test my new pickaxe some more. It was now capable of breaking slime nodes, from which cubic slimes tended to burst forth, and they also yielded some slime, which I collected. What for? I did not know. I explored off in new directions, collecting as I went, and I soon spotted a fishing spot, so I of course cast a line. And I caught some lightstone, one of the rarest materials in the game. That was unexpected. The next cast was a hard fight, but eventually I pulled out an anglerfish.
It's the fish collector achievement. Collect 1 of each fish.
Right next to where I was fishing was an entrance, so I popped my head up above land and investigated this island, on which there were quite a few void beasts with whom I tangled. Once they were defeated, my reward was to admire this wreck and claim an exotic item.
When Captain says to chop some wood real quick, use this. The chopper.
Ah yes, the chopper. A most glorious artifact. Sadly, it was actually worse than my hardened steel axe.
Cane torch. Oh, cool. Level 9. Yeah, let's just get this. 10% damage, dark essence harvest. Ability cooldown is nuts.
There were also some banana trees here.
Oh, banana.
And having 2 active abilities with my sword was a good feeling. I returned to the mines and kept on the move. I found a decorative candle recipe, and my upgraded pickaxe proved effective mining another new resource. Great news.
I've collected titanium ore. Just screaming through the mines now. Okay, I've connected up where I've been previously. I would have collected this when I was here last time, right? But it's respawned.
I scouted out some unexplored directions. I cleaned up another slime area, and then another, because while I had no idea what the slime was for, in my experience it always serves to stock up. The odd enemy bothered me, but the foe density was nothing like in those dungeons, so it wasn't much trouble. But before long, I discovered a new enemy.
What are these things? Little globules.
The globules spawned floating void bugs that were fond of shooting electricity at me. They dealt quite a lot of damage, but in low quantities they weren't too much trouble to dodge.
Can I get this? Weapon tier 2 low.
Honestly, this lava looks so nice I almost want to eat it. And at least I was able to collect more titanium, which seemed to be more common near the lava.
That looks like straight up light crystals, right? Guess I can get that later.
For now, I exterminated pests and claimed all the titanium, iron, slime, and coal I could get my hands on. until...
Oh, I'm out of wood.
All my bridge building and repairing had used up my wood, and now I couldn't afford to make a wood pile, which costs 25 wood. But if I had been able to make a wood pile, I would have been able to take 200 wood out of it and continue dominating the mines. So basically, I wood locked myself.
Done a fair bit of this thing now. What's through here? Holy dooly. Where am I? I'm all the way down here. I'm about to die. Oh, I didn't realize I was dying that fast. Oh, you idiot, bro. You know what I need to do? I need to get the perk where you keep your backpack on death. I should have got that perk.
So I dropped all my stuff on a frosty island down south. But on the other hand, I had gotten a free trip home, so obviously it was time to farm. I harvested and replanted all the seeds that dropped, I refined some cotton into wool, and I hunted elk before heading to collect my dropped loot. On the way, I stopped off at an island to steal all its resources, and I found the remnants of someone's farm. This is when I realized I was able to disassemble random structures found in the overworld. So I figured, why not, and thank you. I could have disassembled this house too, but I didn't because it looked peaceful by the river. I crossed to another island. This was one of the 3 locations the pirate had marked on my map earlier, because it was home to a resource outpost. This was the metal refinery, and it only cost 250 gold to get it up and running. It was now set to constantly produce metal salvage, and deposit it straight into the metal cloud storage. If I upgraded it, it was going to produce machine parts too, but I couldn't afford that just yet. Also, there was a skittish tiger here for some reason. I found this random little island, and I found this slightly bigger island, where I climbed up to claim the ancient woodhead recipe and smash some barrels. And when I dropped down, I spotted a dead fella with a bucket on his head. It increases sailing speed by 10%.
The bucket head on, I can sail around faster now.
I was now passively obtaining metal salvage thanks to the metal refinery, and I wanted some passive lumber too. So I visited this island, where I paid 250 for the lumber mill, which was now set to perpetually shoot wood into my wood cloud storage. It was producing pretty quickly, and could be upgraded to produce hardwood as well. And then it was finally time to return to my grave. As I drew near, I began suffering from the cold, and it intensified as I made land. But I had a plan involving campfires. I quickly plonked one down and fueled it up, and if I'd been much slower, I would have died again, because the cold gets you quick, apparently. I disassembled it, dashed through the snow, and plopped it down again to warm my toes. Using this revolutionary technique, I retrieved my stuff, and then I headed straight back into the mines. I'd only managed to collect 21 titanium ore, and I'd noticed the recipe for pure titanium requires 10 ore, so I was going to need 30 ore per tool upgrade. 21 was not going to cut it, so I needed to delve deeper still into my loot goblin ways and suck up all that the mines had to offer. Titanium was top priority, but I still needed iron, and coal never goes out of style. I continued to dutifully light the lanterns, but again, in retrospect, this was definitely a giant waste of coal. Sometimes the meandering way through the mines led me to dead ends, so I built rather ridiculous platforms over the void below in order to progress. I had the odd void rumble, and I celebrated every time I found the funny looking titanium nodes. When I found double the celebration. I developed a slime technique where I'd ignore the cubes, get all the nodes, and then once the full complement of slimes had arrived, I sliced them in one glorious explosion of green. I hit level 11 and picked up the perk that stops your backpack dropping upon death.
See if I die like an absolute dingus again. I don't want it to be too painful.
These ruins were a bit spicy because there were some big spider spawners, and the big spiders still hit quite hard, despite my improved armor since the last time they'd killed me down here. The loot from this town included some potions. Basically, I was down in the caves for a long time.
What the heck? Who's doing that? There's a tower? Wait, what? There's a massive slime? What on earth is going on here?
I decided to go for it because it was the most intriguing thing I'd found in these caves. I dodged the giant arrows from the tower, and I targeted the spawners. I managed to take 3 of them out, but as you can see, some of these guys were healing up, and I once again couldn't figure out why. I tried to take out the final spawner here, but it just wasn't going to happen, so I fled. I lured these fellas away from the tower that was intent on impaling me, and you see those 2 demon murlocs with the braziers on their head? They were the ones providing the healing. If I managed to take them out, the healing would stop and the fight would turn in my favor. Sadly, I was not able to make that happen, and so I was forced to leg it without having come face to face with the giant cube. I vowed to return one day.
I really just need to find a way out at this point. I've been in here for 2 years. Do I just die and get a free teleport?
I'd explored a huge section of the south, but I'd somehow found very few exits. So yeah, why not take a free spider-induced teleport? Once I respawned, the ongoing harvest moon kicked into gear.
My metal refinery is under attack.
Resource outposts can be targeted and destroyed during harvest moons, and I didn't fancy my chances of getting there to defend, so I snoozed it away. Resource outposts produce materials way faster during harvest moons, so I was giving that up, but I wasn't too bothered. In the morning, I tended to the farm, and I'd managed to collect 60 titanium ore total, so I popped it in the smelter with 60 limestone, and I was set to come away with 6 pure titanium. And beyond that, a bit of a crafting routine was beginning to form. I made a second smelter and set it up to make about 23 more hardened steel, and the crafting quest wanted me to build a refinery, so I built a refinery.
Interesting. I can get iron out of just stone.
And there were a few other handy refining options available. That knocked over the first craftsman quest, and after building this void chest, which is just general cloud storage, I completed the second craftsman quest too.
Workbench level 3. Boom.
By the way, cooked venison was still my go-to for food and healing. Ballista towers were now available to me, so I placed one of those to add to the defense of my little base.
The town's got a ballista tower too.
Between that and the titanium smelting, I completed the third craftsman quest.
Damascus steel. I reckon the tungsten ore is on that desert island because I did see some ore there.
I bought some wheat seeds and sold some flowers too, and I discovered there were some explorers armor pieces for sale here, so I picked those up. They give juicy movement bonuses, so I figured I'd wear them whenever I wasn't fighting. I also bought these leather braces because why not? After all, I did need to collect all of the armor for 100%. I then spent 75 void essence to curse the first dungeon, except I wasn't ready to go in yet, so that was a bit premature. I was fast running out of room in my workshop as I placed down an enchanting table, which had quite an impressive list of enchantments available. My hardened steel items had one enchantment slot, however I couldn't afford much. With 75 void essence and 10 sapphires, I managed to put aggression onto my sword. That was an achievement and plus 10% damage. I had 6 hard-earned pure titanium ingots. I used 3 to upgrade my sword again, giving it another significant damage boost, and I spent the other 3 ingots upgrading the pickaxe.
When I find tungsten ore out there somewhere, I can collect it.
And then it was into the cursed caves.
Second dungeon I looked at appeared to be impossible cursed. Okay, these guys are healing. I can extinguish this. Oh, that makes more sense.
So the cursed dungeons weren't unfathomably difficult after all. I just needed to work out how to turn off the juicy heals. Beyond that, this wasn't massively different to the uncursed version. It was the exact same layout, but with a bit more enemy density. The boss encounter type thingo was a fair bit harder, with a zappy tower in the middle shooting at me. But as always, keeping on the move was a good approach, and munching down infinite cooked meat worked nicely too.
Eat 50 cooked meat, good achievement.
Once the beasts were down, I had to knock down the zappy tower, which dropped some lightstone dust for me to collect. But that was my first cursed dungeon complete, and the first of 5 cursed dungeon quests was knocked over.
So I can make a sea glider with 1 cloth and a bunch of wood. I assume this thing's gonna be faster?
Making that completed an explorer quest, and then I remembered I had seeds to plant, so it was time for a farm expansion. Plenty of hardened steel was done smelting, so I upgraded my watering can, which increased how much water it could hold. I made a promise.
I'll build a more impressive home soon.
And I tested out the sea glider.
Whee! Oh yeah, it's got some speed.
I realized I had 2 skill points, so I grabbed the Master Assassin skill, a huge one, and I began working to the left so I could get some crafting skills next. I soon arrived at my destination, the quarry. I spent 250 gold getting it up and running.
Oh, it gets me coal and stone.
Very nice, I do love coal and stone. And with that I had all 3 resource outposts working away passively collecting for me. I then ventured over to a desert island to see if I could track down some tungsten, and to see if I could defeat the T-Rex rat creatures. With my increased sword damage, it was indeed achievable.
That's gotta be tungsten, right? What is this big ugly thing? It's rolling at me. It's rolling.
The big ugly thing was indeed rolling, and it soon stopped to launch giant boulders all over the place.
What the hell? How do I deal with this guy? Done a lot of damage to him. He rolled for so long though. I think this is tungsten.
No, that is titanium. It just looks slightly different in the sunlight compared to in the caves.
This place is crazy, dude. But I think that's just titanium. I don't think it's tungsten. Where the hell do I get tungsten?
So I was wrong about tungsten. It was not available on the desert islands.
A bench. Learn. Mahogany bench.
My next target was the Forgotten Mines, the location of another Act 2 keystone, where slicing up yet more void beasts was on the menu. I'd invested a lot of time in the cave mining, and it was paying dividends as my upgraded sword was doing work.
I think this perk that gets double dark essence is actually very good.
I rarely used my regular attack. It was all about dodging and landing the 2 special abilities. I hit level 14 and picked up a new skill with a chance to double wood and stone gathered.
Reduced hunger drain is actually nice too.
And it appeared I was at the business end of the dungeon. As I entered this encounter, which was pretty easy as I kept on the move and took down the spawners fairly quickly thanks to my titanium sword. I may have overgeared myself at this point of the playthrough.
Woohoo, just dodge and own.
I claimed some loot, including the Knight's Greaves, and after activating the keystone I took my leave. And I guess I was feeling confident, because I decided to fire up the cursed version of the dungeon.
Like maybe it's not as bad as I think.
Except I'd run out of healing items.
Bananas aren't bad, because they give 10 health.
And so bananas were my fuel as I took on the cursed version of the Forgotten Mines. It wasn't too crazy until this fella showed up.
Oh dude, why are you on fire, big fella? Are you enchanted with fire or something?
Yeah, the big fella was on fire for some reason, and there were so many zappy worms. I told all of them to stop bothering me, using my sword. The boss event had one of the healing brazier thingos, but all the spawners were spread quite wide around it, so they didn't benefit from the heals. So that was poor planning on behalf of the void beasts, and I was victorious.
Oh, spiked greaves. Oh, a thorns build, 30% damage reflected. Alright, so it turns out those healing mobs weren't that bad in that other one that I tried to do. But I was extremely undergeared at that point, I think. I don't think I had any armor. Let's put the leather chest back on. Let's go full damage set. Plus 20% crit damage is better. I'm just dodging and getting off my cooldowns.
I then got busy making very manly noises.
I don't know if this is the right idea. Gotcha, you big idiot. My explorer thing. How am I gonna get so much gold? I need a lot of gold for certain things. What's this? Mahogany table. Exquisite. The language is coming to me. I know, like, yeah, about 30% of the letters. I'm a genius. There's a big tree on it. That's a big old tree. Alright, in we go.
I was in the rhythm now, knocking over them dungeons. This was the Forgotten Outpost, home to the third keystone of Act 2. And thanks to the bananas I regularly munched, I dominated these void dinguses. I claimed the Knight's Braces, activated the keystone, and I was on a roll, so I cursed it immediately.
It'd be cool to upgrade the Iron Hammer and the Iron Spear and try those out.
But for now, the sword was doing just fine. Cursed dungeons always seem to have random towers, which added even more chaos to dodge. This one had a well-placed brazier, which made for a bit of a tense moment, but the time taken to extinguish these was fortunately short. I assume because my character urinated a powerful stream onto the flames. The boss encounter had even more big guys, and of course a random tower in the middle, but I slashed through it no worries and claimed the spiked chest plate. The spiked armor didn't make much sense to me, because you've got to take damage to reflect damage, and I was too fond of dodging. I upgraded my scythe, increasing the amount of seeds collected when harvesting, and I upgraded my torch, making it a little brighter. And thanks to my rampage clearing void dungeons, I had a decent pile of void essence, so I grabbed a most important enchantment.
10 sapphires, that's fine. Let's do it.
My pickaxe now had a chance to collect double the ore. Absolutely huge. It was then time for a renovation. I built out towards the road with some stone foundations and began playing around with options for the design. And this was going to be the forge, where I placed my smelters, anvil, and a refinery.
Wait, where'd I get grape seeds from?
Who knows, but planting them completed the second farm quest. I added a flat roof to the forge, and then pivoted to a partially flat roof, and then I was desperate for gold, so I headed off to sell crops, including paying a visit to Tarragon Town, where the merchant is fond of pumpkins, lavender, and pears. I then resumed the renovations, and a large part of the process was trial and error.
What if all the lower walls are stone? Oh, you can do pagoda roofs. Oh, that's very interesting.
The pagoda pieces require hardwood, but I had plenty, and so the experiment continued. The funky shape of my house meant the roof wasn't quite cooperating. At some point, I paused to upgrade my backpack, increasing my max stack size to 300. This cost me 30 feathers that I'd stolen from chickens, along with 10 cloth and 10 tanned leather. I made a Fletcher's table at which you can make various arrows, and the house wasn't exactly done yet, but I'd at least replaced most of the relevant workstations. I continued making adjustments, including installing this glorious tatami mat style flooring, and I began expanding out, because I was beginning to realize I needed even more room for activities. I had a magnificent harvest to start day 21, and apparently I love these half walls, because I refused to use full walls, only half walls. This evolved into adding an upstairs, except making my house in the shape of an L came with some issues. The roof options weren't quite working for me, and I ended up with a rather wacky design.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I think I might have stuffed it up. You know what I need to do? It'd be cool if I built out the floor to here, and then did like a, yeah, actually would have been sick. And then have the roof come down and held up by the pillars and have like a deck kind of situation.
But I didn't want to build on the road, so I was left with this masterpiece that looked like a wedge had been cut out of it.
Yeah, have a chicken coop here maybe?
That didn't work because the fence pieces refused to build the way I wanted them to. I settled for putting some fat pots down, and I added a tiny balcony on the second level to at least add a bit of shape to the wall. I also began adding some lighting to the doorways. Restocking my wood supply was a quickly done thing. I made even more minor changes, and I was finally satisfied with the exterior. I was even beginning to like the weird cross-section cutout, but now it was time to begin experimenting with the interior.
Yeah, split the room like that maybe.
And I made this the kitchen and dining area. By this point, I was sitting on a couple harvests worth of wheat, so I shoved a bunch in the refinery to be turned into grain. And then I decided I needed to refine more than just wheat, so I placed a second refinery, in which I began crushing some olives to collect olive oil. I believe I found those olives in containers within the various dungeons I'd cleared. Once I had some grain and oil, I began cooking. This fireplace had more sophisticated cooking options compared to the campfires outside. I began by baking some blueberry muffins.
Pumpkin pie is quite good. Pumpkin pie.
Once the pie was ready, that was the first cooking quest completed. It next wanted me to cook 10 mushroom stews and 20 fish ramen. The ramen was going to be tricky, but I got the ball rolling on the mushy stew immediately. I added interior lighting, and before long, it was looking lovely.
It's nicely lit now, it's good. I feel like the downstairs is pretty close to done.
But unlit corners are a no-no. Shove a flame in there where it can burn the underside of those stairs. For now, there was only a bed upstairs. Its time for decorating would come later. I placed 250 clay into a refinery, which would yield 25 sapphires for enchanting.
Now I wish I got the clay bonus. Clay turns into sapphires.
I then headed over to Tarragon Island, where I was distracted by some fishing spots. I needed 20 bluegill to make the fish ramen, so I couldn't resist. By the end of this session, I had 19. And thanks to the 3 keystones I'd activated around the world, this big dungeon was now ready to be opened. So in I went to seal the deal on Act 2. As I began exploring the ruins of Tarragon City, I hit level 16. I picked up Elite Crafter, because I wanted to get Strong Miner next level. This dungeon was a familiar vibe. Void beasts to squish, a giant pile of rubble to break away, some loot which I dutifully collected, and about halfway through, a bit of a boss encounter, this time against a fiery fella. Except there was some water right there, so when he lit me on fire, I was immediately able to extinguish it. And victory was mine without having to eat a single banana. My reward was a claymore, a new weapon type for me to make use of should I so desire.
It's kind of like a slower, higher damage version of the sword.
I did not desire. I never used it. The dungeon continued. It was quite a long one. And there was a random elevator here, so I went up. It popped me out here. I guess this was the intermission. I returned and kept at it, making my way through the abandoned city, purging the evil. I soon arrived at another encounter, full of many traps, and 3 big buffers.
Pound Town. Not Pound Town.
It wasn't too much trouble to take out all 3 Pound Towners. But next up was something large. Something more than a mere encounter. An actual boss. With one of those intimidating health bars at the top of the screen.
Wait, what? Oh my gosh, that's a big boy.
That is indeed, to all appearances, a big boy. I began with caution, trying to get a feel for its moveset. It had a big lunge strike and a charge. And then it whipped this out.
Oh! That's impressive.
It followed that up with one of these ones.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
Obviously, you're supposed to jump over the big circle of electricity. And ideally, you should do your best to avoid getting slapped by the big charge, too. Lucky for me, I had some mushroom stews I'd cooked, and they restored a rather juicy 35 health each. From there, I had a pretty good stretch of play, as I managed to deal a lot of damage thanks to my upgraded sword. However, it appears I suffered from a little bit of tunnel vision, and as a result, I failed to conserve my own health.
Oh no.
I like how when the death blow damage registered, the boss just completely dematerialized. It's efficient murder and escape. And now I could see why this random entrance halfway was here, to help gooses like me with a shorter run back. Here's the problem. I was now out of stew, so my healing options were less effective. But here's the main problem. I appear to suck at avoiding void boars and their wild flailing.
Dude! I suck.
I decided since my dodging skills weren't cutting it, I'd better tank up. So I put the 3 pieces of knight's gear I had on, increasing my armor by 2 and my health by 15. The trade-off was my crit damage was reduced by 15%. I also added the potions I'd found in my travels to my action bar. The green one gives a buff for 30 seconds, providing periodic healing during that time. Once the phase where the boar starts shooting electricity everywhere started, I drank one, and its benefit was significant. Combined with the healing received from having a full belly, it made me feel like I was doing a great job avoiding damage, when in fact I was still having an absolute shocker. It seemed that circle thing I was supposed to jump over was my nemesis, but thanks to the great armor and the heals, I came away with a glorious victory.
The healing tick potion kind of trivialized that.
Bold words for someone who almost died 3 times even with the help of the potion, but a win is a win.
Look at the void essence, like so poopy.
My reward was a shower of riches and the knight's helmet, completing the knight's set. I popped it on my head, and then I put my explorer stuff back on so I could run faster. But most importantly,
I've now got the 25% to double ores mined. I now have 50% chance for double resources from mining.
And Act 2 was done, and I was now destined to go west, because that's where Act 3 was calling me. There was a waypoint there, so within moments I arrived. And as I warped in, I murdered some chickens. The market here was willing to buy my grapes and passion fruit. Great news. And there was a sorcerer's set available. Also, the Shavar town board was waiting for me to give it materials. I couldn't afford it just now, so I explored the island a little. I was still wearing my explorer's armor, so this thing was eating me for breakfast. I switched into my night set, and I wasn't so squishy, even when under attack from a bowling ball. Once I'd cleared the riffraff down here, I realized I was getting a different kind of metal from some of these crates.
I got some machine parts.
The entrance to the Act 3 final dungeon was quite majestic by the waterfall, and as I poked its obelisk, I was once again instructed to go activate 3 keystones around the world before the doors here would open.
Uncover the ancient language, and I'll give you the truth in return, and you'll find the truth in return, something like that. There's another tiger. How do I catch the tiger?
I took the opportunity to collect materials, and I was particularly keen on the titanium, but as a consequence, I drew the ire of quite a few monstrosities. Not least of all, multiple bowling balls. I zoomed over to a nearby island where my ancient language comprehension got even better. I fished, I mined, and I got on the move. All the way back to this Act 2 Keystone dungeon, because now that I knew how healing braziers worked, I wanted to try it again. I of course extinguished the heals, and the fight was much more manageable. You may recall the boss encounter for this one was lots of voidlings. In cursed mode, there were even more lots of voidlings. It was very satisfying to cleave them all down. I received the spiked braces for my efforts. I then returned home and kept busy looking after my glorious property. And now that I had some machine parts, I was able to make one of these water towers.
So I can get it automated, but for now I just gotta fill it.
It can also be upgraded, but for now it was able to water 12 nearby plots, as indicated by the blue lines. I filled it up and left it to do its thing. But by this point I had a pretty significant surplus of seeds. Not only did my own crops return plenty, but I'd also found heaps more in the wild. Since the water tower could only reach 12 plots, this wasn't quite gonna work considering I now had 18 down, and it definitely wasn't gonna reach these new ones on the other side here. But I ran into an issue building this close to the town. It simply wouldn't let me build at a certain point, and so this chunk of 9 plots was limited to 7. I planted quite a few olive trees here, because I needed heaps of olive oil for cooking. I'd forgotten to replace my loom during the renovations, so I did that now and popped a whopping 197 cotton in there to be made into cloth.
Some hardwood? I don't have much hardwood left. I have like no hardwood left.
I placed a well here, another source of water if I couldn't be bothered walking 2 meters to the river nearby.
Lumberjack doubles the resources given from chopping trees. Seems extremely useful.
I got some smelting going, I admired the metal salvage that had piled up thanks to the metal refinery, and I upgraded my fishing rod, which gave it an enchantment slot.
Proficiency. You see what they did there?
I don't think fishing was exactly high priority, but I guess I couldn't resist the top tier wordplay, so I whacked that on my pole. I then spent 10 minutes chopping down massive trees on Tarragon Island, because I needed to restock hardwood, and thanks to a harvest moon, my lumber mill was under attack. A health bar appeared up top, and it was draining fast. Clearly, the absolutely zero defenses I'd left there were not very good.
What does that mean? Look at them. Lumber mill defeated. What does that mean?
It meant the lumber mill would not produce free wood for me until it had some time to repair itself. I wasn't too fussed about that. I'd collected about 1,000 hardwood, so I headed home. And I guess I actually benefited from the harvest moon this time round because the crops had grown quicker than usual. But even with my expanded farm, I still had a surplus of seeds. This was great news because I was gonna need to sell heaps of produce in order to afford various upgrades and purchases. I used my level 18 skill point to pick up Master Crafter, which added a very handy extra hotbar slot. And speaking of selling produce, I sold quite a lot of roses on this day 26. The first water tower upgrade was pretty expensive, 80 hardwood, 5 olive oil, and 5 machine parts, but with that it was able to reach 18 plots. Perfect for my needs looking after these 2 sections of 9. I kept the olive oil as a priority in the refinery, and my next build was a chicken coop, in which I began incubating one of the eggs I'd stolen earlier.
I wouldn't mind upgrading some stuff, so I think I need more titanium.
I beelined for titanium, hoping my double ore effects would proc.
I think that's a proc. That was 8.
And so the titanium collecting was a fair bit faster this time round. I took to marking lava areas on the map, because they always have both titanium and lightstone, which I was now able to mine since my pickaxe was now upgraded to titanium.
Wait, can I disassemble this?
Oh, I can. Thanks for the machine parts.
Now, presumably the lightstone and the titanium in both these lava areas will respawn. I believe that's how it works. So if I build this waypoint, it's fucking huge. If I build this waypoint right here.
When I upgraded my workbench to level 3, which had just cost a bit of hardened steel and leather, I'd unlocked the ability to make a whole dang waypoint. It was expensive, requiring 5 lightstone. But now that I could actually mine lightstone, I figured a quick way back to lava was a good idea.
She doesn't even eat or sleep anymore, just like everyone else. She's obsessed with lightstone.
That sounds like addict behavior, but I'll take a gramophone recipe.
How do I get over there? This is just in the void of nothing.
This is when I worked out there's an extension platform building piece, which can hang off the side of a foundation. And building up a little was also a handy technique, granting me the height needed to jump the gap.
Wait, how am I gonna get back? I can't get back.
It's all good. This lava area wasn't actually completely surrounded by the void. It connected off in some other random direction, which I of course followed. I continued sniffing out lava locations, hoovering up titanium and lightstone, and I continued marking each bit of lava on my map. I also found the odd random titanium just hanging out somewhere along the way.
Oh, I think I found the weed area again. Yeah. Oh, double light. I didn't even have the double lightstone perk. Oh my gosh. I thought I couldn't mine it. That's why I didn't take that.
I definitely missed out on a few lightstone because I'd lacked that perk, which was a bit of a bummer.
Where the heck does this lead to? Oh, dude, I'm on this island. Cool. I kind of wanted to go here anyway. Okay, let's upgrade to level 2. Boom. This guy's got festive blueprints. This guy's got some serious recipes. Bamboo lantern.
Unfortunately, I only had 125 clay left in cloud storage, and therefore I was unable to upgrade this town to level 3.
Dude, that's actually so much clay.
Oh well, time to head back into the mines to sniff out more delicious lava. And after way too long down here, uncovering most of the southern half of the cave map, I'd secured a very juicy haul.
I spent way too long down here. I'm up to 47 lightstone, 150 titanium. That'll be 15 pure titanium worth, enough to upgrade like everything. Well, there's the waystone. It's not even that far away. It's quite close to this. Oh, that was enough to die? Yeah, that was a great way to get a free teleport. Big strats, big strats.
Outside, one chicken had hatched to help fertilize the soil with its ceaseless scratching and pooping.
I got one chicken? Where is it? I had one chicken. Did my dog kill it?
And there were farm chores to be done, and materials to be refined.
What are they? I can make the machine parts. It's just hardened steel plus metal scrap.
I was set to make a butt ton of hardened steel, because I picked up heaps of incidental iron shards while in the caves. I kept juicing olives for their delicious oil, and I got busy at the anvil for a very important upgrade.
Okay, I've maxed out my big bucket.
I also upgraded my spear to titanium, which gave it a second active ability, a big stabby move. I gave it a bit of a trial. I next upgraded the hammer to titanium, and I upgraded the shield and bow I never used too. I was more impressed by the big hammer's new move than I was the spears. It was a big leap slam type slapper. The metal refinery was by far the most valuable resource outpost, and I'd saved up 750 gold and 80 metal salvage, so it was time to upgrade.
It's making these faster now, 1.3 times faster, and it's making these machine parts as well.
And then it was time to strike out towards the south, where another desert island awaited me.
Bit of a heat shimmer going on here. Oh my gosh, look at this crap. Roll at me, idiots.
These spiky testicles were indeed idiots, as they got stuck on the lip of the crater while I walloped them with my big honkin' hammer. I did likewise with the remaining rollers. I took out a couple of nests, and then it was time to claim my reward.
Spiked shield. An exotic shield. 100% damage reflection. Wow, okay.
I equipped the spike shield and discovered its active ability.
You do a little poo. Doubles your roll cooldown, but it's kind of interesting.
It was effective at blocking and reflecting 100% of any damage coming from in front, which was great against these anorexic T-Rexes.
Dude, I can just hold this. Wait, hang on. This guy's just owning himself though.
Between that and the active shield bash move, and the fact that it provides 2 armor, so it made me more tanky even when I did get hit, I was beginning to warm to this shield.
It's a 6 out of 10. Your armor can go past 8. So when I've got the shield on, it goes up to 10.
And so I suddenly had a new combat build, featuring a big honkin' hammer and a spiky shield. I was a tanky bonker. I fought and looted a bit, and then it was time to head into this dungeon to hunt down the first keystone of Act 3. It was quite dark down here. It was definitely an even bleaker vibe than what I was used to, and it appeared this new chapter featured new foes. From what I could tell, these bipedal scratchy fellas were the same as the sandy slashers upstairs, except in void form, and they were multiplying thanks to these big tall spawners. These enemies were a bit of a handful earlier, but thanks to the fact that I was now using the spiked shield, I found them fairly easy. They're not the easiest to dodge, but I wasn't so dodgy anymore. I was blocky. Block and unleash big hammer slaps. There was a fiery passage here, which I actually managed to clear without my pants catching alight, which I thought was very impressive, and I soon arrived at this encounter, which was a bit of a spicy one as I was beset on all sides. This is probably a fight where being dodgy is better than being blocky, but I soon worked out that my extreme jumping ability was actually pretty effective as a dodge, and so I just bided my time and let off the big hammer slaps, which did huge damage and cleaned up the void boogers pretty quickly. Next up, I wandered past some of that delicious lava, and in this trial by fire encounter there was yet more lava, and I had to perform some elite jumping to get the job done. In the process, I hit level 20, and I picked up the skill that gives a chance for double clay. I claimed the chest, which held a most delicious item.
Cold resistance bonus. That was what I was hoping for. Ooh, base damage increase.
The Viking set appeared to be rather juicy. I activated the keystone, took my leave.
Rigatoni, fly to midnight, inside ketamine. Daft flying.
And that was enough for me, so I fired up the cursed version and got back in there. As usual, the foe density was greater, and some braziers had turned on, so I had to extinguish those to stop the healing. Fortunately, I had some pumpkin pie left over, because I had to munch a few to keep my health topped up. There were also random sparky towers. Through the fire, although this time I may have singed my bottom, and...
oh gosh. That's not the play. Well, I mean, I have to go up here this time, right?
Yep, that'd be wise. And that explains why the encounter is called Don't Look Up.
Oh, there's a guy shooting at me from outside. That's hacking.
With that bombardment, I ate up my last pumpkin pie.
How did I take that much damage?
But I pulled through.
Problem is my moves are slow, so if I'm getting swarmed like that...
But I put some mushroom stew onto my action bar and stuck with the big slow idiot build, and it saw me through to the end of the cursed dungeon. You gotta admire the floating platform of wood defying the lava. And the Act 3 cursed dungeons offered up an intriguing set of gear.
Okay, so this makes you slower, but you get tons of elemental damage resistance.
I refused to use it.
I don't know that I could ever wear a piece of armor with minus run speed.
I caught 8 anglerfish in my cave expedition earlier, and I sold them now for 120.
Look how big this bucket is.
It is a pretty big bucket. The farming cycle continued, and the pile of seeds in my inventory continued to grow. I was up to 88 cloth, but why not more? I cooked more mushroom stew for use as a healing item, and my chickens were very slowly multiplying. I benefited from the harvest moon that night, long enough to see some newly planted crops spontaneously grow, but then I went to bed because I didn't want my quarry destroyed.
Let's go for level 4. Oh, workbench level max. Alchemy table is the big one, I feel.
I began crafting machine parts. I sold a bunch of my crop off. I spent some time collecting. I worked on the farm. Some machine parts were ready, and with that I plonked down my new workstation.
Alchemy table. A big old healing potion. A healing potion. And then this is sick. Oh, slime. What do I make glass out of again? Limestone. Yeah, do it. Make a ton of glass.
I had 70 lightstone dust thanks to the sparky towers I'd destroyed in cursed dungeons, and I had a decent 177 slime. And interestingly, the alchemy table couldn't be powered by coal. It needed void essence. So these potions were quite expensive, but they were definitely worth it. I enchanted aggression on my new weapon of choice, the mighty hammer, and I enchanted my shield too.
Let's get lightweight on this to counteract some of the roll cooldown penalty.
With that, I made the drawbacks of using a shield a little less punishing.
My chicken's wandering in my house. That's a bonus.
Reaching the max workbench level had unlocked water pumps, so I placed one in the river. But to work the pump, you need a windmill, so I placed one of those too.
The windmill is powering the pump, and the pump is automatically filling this thing up with water, so now I'll never have to water these again.
I do love a bit of automation, and with some potions coming in, I was in good stead for my upcoming dungeon crawling.
Things are chugging on along nicely. The house looks sick though.
I soon earned the Brew 10 Potions achievement, and I figured it was about time I expanded my farm some more. I soon had a situation like this set up. The reason I put the windmill there instead of another farm plot is because of the rise of the hill. I refuse to have grass clipping through my farm. But anyway, more seeds in the ground, the agricultural empire grows. I was planting just about everything imaginable, but still prioritizing olives and cotton so I could refine them into useful stuff.
Alright, we're gonna do the Act 2 boss dungeon cursed. This could be a terrible plan.
It mostly wasn't too bad. When I got to the fiery pew pew bit, there were 2 of them instead of 1. When I got to Pound Town, there were just a couple of extra big slappers. As I said, not too bad.
Oh yeah, now they're doing some of those ones. That's not good. Oh gosh, this is ridiculous. How's that all hitting me?
And when I got up to the boss, the glorious Void Boar, he'd cloned himself. This was not too bad. It was not good.
Oh gosh. Oh, I need to dodge these. Get another potion popped.
I used quite a few green potions taking on these big buffers, but I was terrible dodging just one electric circle, so double trouble was not a happy time.
Oh, crazy, man. I don't think I'm gonna bash my head against that. I shouldn't have come here.
I actually got them both down to about a quarter health, so if I tried again and actually did the mechanics properly, maybe I would have been fine. But as it was, I left it for another day. I instead found myself at another desert island, where there were quite a few of these scratchy fellas hanging out protecting some treasure. This was not the most graceful takedown, but I got there eventually as I hammered down all the spawners one by one.
Another shield. Feather shield with a bunch of movement speed? That's kind of sick. You might as well have it keybound so you can just sprint whenever you want.
I underestimated how good this shield was, because not only did it provide armor and movement speed, it did not cause a penalty to roll cooldown, unlike my other shields. I began speccing up towards the farming talents.
5 health there, 10 more health there, 5 more health there. I'll suddenly have 100 health.
And then I headed into another Act 3 Keystone dungeon, which began with an absolutely gorgeous limestone bridge extension. After my embarrassing failure in the previous dungeon, I was looking for redemption. And have I mentioned, the big slaps of the hammer were quite satisfying? Nonetheless, when I arrived at the boss encounter, I was worried that I was washed up, that I'd never succeed again, that I was going to be forced into obscurity. But no, it was fine.
Alright, that's not too bad. I can handle that.
And say hello to a burst of treasure and some more Viking gear. With my confidence restored, I fired up the cursed version of the chasm. Now what you gotta do is round up as many of the big void twinkle toes idiots and then bonk them all on the head at once. I hit level 22 and picked up 10 health, plus some farming and healing perks, and this encounter was much harder because way too many zappy levitating worms were added to the mix, and it was difficult to find safe space as I bounced about. But I got there eventually, and that was another piece of the ancient set. By the way, the feathered shield was glorious for zooming along, and when I added the explorer set to the zoomies, it was even faster, with a very fast roll cooldown. I found a new recipe on this island, and on this island there was a cave entrance, so down I went into a northern area of the mines, and right here was an intriguing device. If you put oil in it, it produces almost every stone or ore in the game. Not tungsten, sadly, but titanium and lightstone. I had 39 olive oil, so I put it in there and let it do its thing. And I figured this deserved a warp portal, so I placed one down and took the opportunity to warp over to the other cave portal, between the two lava areas.
See if this is respawn.
At one of the lava areas, the titanium was back, but not the lightstone. And at the other lava area, none of the good stuff was back. So I guess I returned a little too soon. I checked on the quarry. It was getting stone and limestone pretty fast at least. And I headed topside and over to this island, where I geared myself up for more violence.
The corrupt tombs. The corrupt tombs.
My friend Fred always used to mispronounce the word tome, spelt T-O-M-E, as in a big old book. He pronounced it tomb, and I could never be bothered to correct him. Why did he have reason to say the unusual word tome so often, you ask? We played a lot of Dota together, and there's an item you can buy called the Tome of Knowledge, and Fred almost always played support, and support players typically fall behind in levels, so he usually bought the tome to get an experience boost. And he'd be like, I'm buying the tomb, let me read that tomb. Fred, if you're watching this, it's about time I broke it to you. It's pronounced tome. Anyway, this was not a tome, it was a tomb. A corrupt tomb. And this corrupt tomb had some traps of the booby variety. Although maybe not. It's not so much a booby as it is a slowly spinning spiky thing. Thank you for the Viking Greaves, and that was the third and final Act 3 keystone activated. I leveled up, I made towers crumble, and I was assaulted by an aggressive spicy meatball.
Ah, a flaming one.
My hammer plus spiked shield build seemed to be working just fine for me, with the occasional green potion when the situation looked intense, and regular mushy stews to top up my health too. I popped a green potion during this encounter with the brazier to ensure I didn't suffer an untimely demise, and there were so many extra enemies on the other side of this booby, but soon enough the cursed tombs were complete, and I had the ancient greaves. I paid a visit to the quarry.
Okay. 2 lightstone from it so far.
And no one can deny the fully grown crops look absolutely majestic. I'd specced into a perk that meant I collected even more seeds when harvesting.
I'm getting so many extra seeds now just from one perk. This is all lavender. What? How many lavender seeds do I have? Okay.
Yeah, that was exactly 90 lavender seeds. And just as well I had a decent orchard of olive trees, because olive oil was more in demand than ever, thanks to the discovery of that quarry down in the caves.
I'm gonna buy this. Extra seeds. Extra seeds. I don't have grapes. How do I not have enough grapes?
With the farming set, I'd get even more seeds when harvesting, if I remembered to put it on before whipping out my scythe. Speaking of, I spotted an insanely juicy enchantment for my scythe.
That is insane. Okay, that is the moneymaker. Lock it in, baby. Wish I got that before the last harvest. Yeah, that's the key way I make money, so that's gonna be insane. Doubles the amount harvested is ridiculous.
I then wondered why I had so few lattices, so I got busy correcting that shortcoming, and I was able to plant a bunch more grape and passion fruit seeds. Clay was actually rather high priority, since it can be refined into sapphires for enchanting, and thanks to my farming profits I had over 1,000 gold, so I paid a visit to the metal refinery.
1,000 gold and 25 machine parts. Boom. Okay, that's max level.
It was now just a tad faster at producing the metal. I then headed over to Shavar, where I finally upgraded the town to max, making it look more lovely than ever, and of course activating the warp stone. And apparently I couldn't be bothered turning wheat into grain anymore, because I sold a buttload of it to this bloke.
Watermelon. Watermelon. I love you, love watermelon. Oh, what's this guy doing? Oh, he's busking. Heck yeah.
As the sun rose on day 35, I opened up the Act 3 final dungeon, and so began my dive into the ancient tombs, or the ancient tomes, as Reverse Fred might say. It was good to be bandying about with my hammer once more. This tomb featured some spinning traps, and plenty of platforming shenanigans too, as I leapt across treacherous gaps.
Oh, I fell through a hole.
Rounding up this many of the slashy demons at once was not a healthy plan, as I nearly died. I reached level 24 and got a perk providing a 30% chance to double seeds collected from plants, even more seeds, and I ventured through to this encounter, where I took on one spicy meatball and 2 dry ones that somehow managed to completely avoid the chili sauce. For some reason, the triple meatballs made my game lag, but when they stopped their long roll, I took them out pretty quickly. There were some rather well-stocked storerooms in here. Yes, please, I do love loot. And I found a new variety of booby trap, as enormous wooden stakes burst forth from the wall. Don't you reckon if you picked up that lava, it would slowly stretch out, pulled by gravity, molasses-like, and then it would be so hot but so sweet as it engulfed your tongue? Seriously though, it looks edible, or is that just me? Anyway, I got confused by the next bit.
How the hell do I get up? I can do that. I guess that's not bad. Is that what I was supposed to do?
I believe it was not the intended path, but it'll do. I was expecting a boss fight, because I thought this was the end of the dungeon, but no, I wasn't quite there yet. I squished some spawners, and then...
Platforming silly willies? No! Oh, what? I'm here. Oh. Oh, hang on.
A new weapon type, the glaive. I gave it a quick whirl and then I arrived at the end.
Oh dear, look at this big fella. I'm gonna try the new weapon, which is probably a terrible idea.
I only had cooked venison for my healing needs, plus 3 green potions left, so I wasn't really hopeful. But this big lumbering troll was a bit slow in his assault, which meant I was actually fairly comfortable avoiding damage.
Stop throwing bowling balls at me.
Although it must be said, he did have a rambunctious habit of throwing many bowling balls at me. I used a couple of those green potions as the fight progressed, which meant I was constantly ticking up heals that kept me in good stead. And honestly, this big idiot just didn't do enough. He was too slow, and when I was right under his big belly, it seemed he barely ever managed to hit me. And so my experiment with the glaive somehow worked out really well.
I feel like he's not doing damage to me when I'm like right underneath him. Get owned, idiot. Bomb. Even more cold resist. The Viking set gives 25% base damage and 80% cold resist. 25% bonus damage is pretty crazy, actually. But now I can go to those cold areas, right?
Act 3 was complete, and I was now destined for the cold. And yes, the Viking set had a whopping plus 25% damage, but changing into it meant I was giving up 2 armor and 20 health from the Knight set. I had to wear it anyway for the cold resistance, but I hoped it would also be the superior choice. As I rushed off to defend my metal refinery from the Harvest Moon Hungries, the extra damage certainly felt nice. While I was here, I figured I might as well put some defenses up. Even once the night was over and the threat was gone, I kept at it, placing a Tesla coil, a couple of ballista towers, and a tangle of stone walls. I figured surely that'd keep the beasties at bay for a bit the next time the refinery suffered an assault. I made my way to a frosty island, and rather than freezing almost immediately like last time, my 80% frost resistance meant I was only taking 2 damage periodically, and my passive healing was able to out-heal that.
Oh, here we go. This is what I want.
Finally, a new type of rock, and at long last, some precious tungsten was mine. There were also some white wolves here, and they were quite ferocious. I explored the entire island and claimed all the tungsten I could find, and I ended up with 17 total. I then sailed off towards this island, where I collected clay, and I returned to the refinery because I decided I wanted to go bigger.
I got a lot of stone in here, right? I got way too much stone. I want to be able to warp here so I can defend it. Surely the defenses are insane now. Yeah, even this guy who's a big fella. Yeah, even he gets owned.
I invested 175 metal salvage in this defensive setup, which may have been a little overkill. By this point, I noticed some of the food items said they were useful as bait to catch certain animals, and raw rainbow trout was apparently perfect for catching tigers, so I set up a bait box.
It looks like it's working now. It might be working now. Tame! There we go. Your companion attacks enemies for you. Okay. I think that was a quest. Yeah, there we go. Explorer done. Oh, I got the farmer done as well. Build a seed storage container.
So now I had a pet tiger. Mike Tyson would be proud.
There we go, got some seed storage.
That was the 4th farmer quest done, and for the final quest, I was going to have to harvest a rather large quantity of produce.
Damascus steel with 5 titanium and 5 tungsten. Okay.
And so I began smelting the most precious ingots in the game. I upgraded my axe and scythe to titanium.
I'll make 2 more pure titanium, and then I think that's the final upgrade. Wait, where do I get ink? I need ink.
I collected so many olives. I refined more clay into sapphires, and with my farm larger than ever, it was a bit of a mission to get everything planted. After growing my own flock, and also murdering many chickens around the world, I finally had a good amount of eggs, so I began cooking fish ramen. And after a crop selling spree, my gold ballooned above 1800.
Can get some serious money from farming, bro.
And I wasn't even done. I still had a bit of selling to do over in Shavar. I considered buying and using this sorcerer's set, which reduces your ability cooldown by 30% all up, but it also provided barely any armor, so I decided that was a bad idea. 19 fish ramen were ready. I just needed 1 more for the quest. And
the cat's slowly going over there? I think it might be. It's gonna walk straight through the fire. Oh dear.
I'd seen this cat running around Bridgewater Town since day 1, and now I tamed it with sardine in a bait box.
I think this might be bugged. Tame a cat, tame a dog, tame a tiger, tame a wolf, tame a dog, tame a dog, tame a dog. What?
I visited the mining quarry, and it had dug me up 8 titanium and 6 lightstone, among other things, and I was still wearing the Viking set, and it was beginning to hit me just how juicy the 25% plus damage bonus was. It was also nice to see some lava loot had reappeared. I caught some more bluegill so I could cook some more ramen, and with that the second cooking quest was soon done. I fired up the alchemy machine again, and I finally bought the big bag upgrade, which was rather expensive, especially the 25 sapphires.
Buy the void pack. Nice. Oh wait, what? Oh, I haven't looked at this.
So I still had a fair bit more to collect, but for now I upgraded the lumber mill to level 2.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bother defending this because I don't really care if it stops working for a bit.
I refilled the mining quarry with oil, and I hit level 26.
I think you get the free revive. Free revive every 40 minutes.
I arrived on the shores of a big frosty island, the location of the Act 4 dungeon, where I activated the obelisk, which marked the locations of the keystones on my map. And I wanted a wolf, so I set up a bait box with venison in it.
He's attacking my bait box. No, that's not what was supposed to happen. Oi!
After that failure, I headed into MA Town and began looking around at what was on offer. I was able to sell cotton here, and I guess I had plenty of cloth because I immediately sold all that I had.
Upgrade this? I need so much bamboo.
I only had 82 bamboo, so I wasn't sure how I was going to upgrade this town. Also, there was a whole samurai set for sale over here, which appeared to be a plus crit chance focused set. But sadly, this island lacked tungsten. I assumed snow equals tungsten, but no. I sailed away and recalled that I'd seen an achievement to eat 50 sardines, but I'd sold all the sardines I'd caught earlier, so I needed to do some ocean fishing. I found a new variety of fishing spot, unique to the cold, from which I caught some tuna, and...
Oh wait, is that squid? That looks like squid.
I needed ink for the Damascus steel weapon and tool upgrades, and the way to get ink was by shoving a squid into a refinery. So I caught all the squid I could, collecting 6 total from this spot.
Okay, what the heck is going on here? Is this a massive fortress? What?
This is the location of one of the Act 4 Keystone dungeons, and it was indeed a bit of a fortress. I began attacking this void-encrusted ballista tower. However, I did precisely 0 damage, and a demon murloc wandered over to bother me. I assumed it was a regular old demon murloc, which I'd be able to kill in one hit. But no, it was a stronger variant.
Oh dude, why is this guy so hard?
I then decided to flee, except I jumped down quite a way, took fall damage, and used my 40-minute revive. So there were some new void enemies to haunt my steps through the snow. Good to know.
I can get enough tungsten to upgrade my pickaxe. It seems like what I need to do. I found the ice wall. Game of Thrones. What?
I'd found the edge of the map, and yes, it appeared I needed a stronger pickaxe to take down those void ballista towers. So I was on the hunt for more tungsten. It seemed tungsten did not appear on story-related snow islands, but I was relieved to find another random snow island that did indeed have tungsten on offer. Much like the island I'd been to earlier when I'd first collected some. I got pretty lucky and managed to collect 26.
Oh, look at this island. Oh, this is what we need. Bamboo.
I whipped out my scythe, which was enchanted to collect double, and that appeared to apply to bamboo, as I was able to scoop up hundreds in no time.
Wait, what is that? It's a fox?
There was heaps of clay here too, which I was pleased about.
Alright, I suddenly got over 500 bamboo. Is it a fox? What is that? Is it a red panda?
I googled it and learned it was indeed, and red pandas can be tamed with bamboo.
I'm pretty sure it's getting tamed right now by the bamboo. Boom. Red panda.
The red panda pet fetches items for you, and is by far the coolest and the cutest, so I of course kept him by my side.
That was the dog. Maybe they put dogs so that you wouldn't spoil that you can find a red panda. I don't know.
Or maybe red panda is dog. I returned to MA, where I was able to fully upgrade the town with my newly collected bamboo. This added a fishing shop, a lovely geothermal spring, and of course activated the warp stone. I returned home for a big juicy harvest. I put the machines to work. I switched the alchemy table up to produce small healing potions, which require roses, and I used 3 pure titanium, 50 slime, and 1 lightstone to max out the quality of my torch.
Super bright and super blue.
And I enchanted it with enlighten to make it even more bedazzling.
So much light. 1 squid is 1 ink, so I can get 6 ink, which is actually quite a lot, I think.
And so the refinery squeezed some ink out of these poor squids, somehow.
With just 1, I can upgrade my pickaxe now, right?
No, because remember that time I sold all my cotton because I thought I didn't need any more cloth? Well, I needed heaps more cloth.
I only have 2. How did I run out of cloth?
The potions were coming in thick and fast, and I'd already replanted most of my existing fields, so it was time. I crossed the river and got to work on my new farm, for glory. Now I just needed a water pump.
Wood, I need cloth. That's where all my cloth went, dude. I want to make more cloth with that thing, but then I need more cloth. I'm just like, what is going on?
So I didn't quite manage to automate the watering here yet, but I filled up almost 9 plots with cotton regardless, and watered using my unreasonably large bucket. This farm expansion was useful to revive the cloth industry, but it was also going to be essential to help me earn heaps of gold, because to complete 100% I was going to need to purchase a whole bunch of goodies pretty soon. Some olive oil was soon refined, so I was able to fully upgrade this water tower, meaning it could reach 24 farm plots, so I added 6 more. This was definitely quite a relaxing time of farming, including a session where I slowly chopped down olive trees with a scythe for some reason. I also somehow had 149 raw venison from murdering every deer I saw, so I slapped that on the campfire. And I'd been enjoying the run speed boost from the feather shield, and it was now time to make it even better, adding a 15% roll cooldown reduction and 3% more movement speed. And then it was only reasonable that I double the size of the new farm area. I even remembered to put on my farm hat at some point. I had plenty of seeds, so it was soon all planted. Somewhere in there, some cotton had grown, so I'd managed to craft 7 cloth. And I went to upgrade my pickaxe, but I somehow had no hardwood left. So it was back to Tarragon Island for another of those hardwood collecting sessions. I used some of that hardwood to get a fully upgraded water tower set up here, and to of course at long last upgrade my pickaxe. And I had enough Damascus steel for another upgrade too.
I think I upgrade my hammer. I'm a big fan of the hammer. Let's upgrade it.
And so I finally had a maxed out weapon.
Okay, that's all I can afford for now. That's pretty massive. Look at that thing, dude.
But actually it wasn't quite maxed out, because now it had a second enchantment slot available.
Creates an electric chain.
I popped the small healing potions into the alchemy table table. 3 of them combined into one big healing potion, and I sailed off to a snowy island where I flexed the new zappy mace I'd crafted. As promised, it shot off an electric chain that dealt about 10 damage to each enemy it arced to, by the look of it. While I was experimenting to figure out how good it was, I once again underestimated these upgraded demon murlocs. They were hitting hard. In fact, this island in general was a challenge, as there were ballistas all over the place shooting oversized arrows at me. But at least with my upgraded pickaxe, I was now able to knock them over. Once I'd cleared out all the violent actors near the entrance to the dungeon, I began attacking this barrier, and once it was down, I was free to enter my first Act 4 Keystone dungeon.
Having a bunch of towers around is hard. They're just shooting at you. Little shoot tootins, you know what I mean? What is going on over there? This is locked, so I need to figure out how to unlock it. Clearly.
I marched off to figure out what I needed to do, and I was still wearing the Viking armor, so my damage was higher than ever. But these enemies were also stronger than ever, and they hit hard. There was an upgraded version of the Pew Pew frogs here too, and another one up the stairs. I also randomly found a cannon. It was pretty crap.
Dude, these guys do so much damage. This is crazy.
My spiked shield had helped me cruise through Act 3, so this was definitely a pronounced difficulty spike. This is where the electric enchantment on my hammer shined. When I hit a whole clump of enemies, a lightning chain began from each one of them, so the zap damage really added up. Speaking of zaps, say hello to the improved variant of the levitating worm void monsters. As you can see, these ones also have some impressive electric abilities. The weaker version of the worm just shoots a spray of lightning at you, but these ones let off an explosive pulse around themselves, and of course they conducted big zaps between each other. And there was yet another new enemy to discover here.
What is this big guy?
This fella was similar to the Void Troll boss at the end of Act 3. And this type of enemy is ironically pretty easy, because they move so slow and are pretty easy to dodge.
Alright, big boy.
I picked up another 5 health from the skill tree, and by this point I'd pretty much picked up everything good, but I still had 5 more levels to go to clean up every talent available. Finally, I ascended some lovely stairs, stepped on a pressure plate, and activated this shiny device. When I returned to the entrance, the chest was now unlocked, so I claimed the Oni Greaves, a piece of light armor that provides movement and attack speed. And I activated the first keystone of Act 4. And clearly we all know by now, there's no time to waste. Just get straight back in there and do the cursed version. After initially feeling a little intimidated by the difficulty spike of Act 4, I had sharpened up my combat and was now playing a little bit more smoothly. But it's fair to say the sheer volume of enemies in the cursed version here was a little bit more intense.
So dumb, bro.
In defiance of my old nemesis Gravity, I cruised through the cursed dungeon to great success, and I received the Paladin's Greaves, which have no inherent bonuses, but they have an extra enchantment slot so you can customize them more than all the other sets. I realized another ancient tablet was also on this island, so I gave that a read. I had a fishing session, catching as many sardines as I could, and about 7 minutes later I had 52. I retrieved stone from the quarry, and I got busy with a rather enormous harvest. I'd soon collected 50 passion fruit, 250 olives, and 150 watermelons for the quest. But I of course now had an even bigger farming setup across the water, and it's fair to say between harvesting and replanting it was a big undertaking, but the profits were considerable and many of the crops helped keep the production machines chugging.
Yeah, this is interesting. It's not possible to get any plus damage on your armor from enchanting. The 5% damage increase on these is kind of crazy.
And so I decided to stick with the Viking armor and committed to enchanting them, starting with haste on the boots, which added a whopping 15% movement speed. But with that, I was now low on sapphires, so I set out in search of clay so that I could refine it into more sapphires. And I soon put Vindication on my helmet, which recovers health when collecting Dark Essence, and Fortify on the chest piece to add +1 armor. Some more Druid's armor had appeared in Tarragon Town, so I bought it for the collection. I sold some produce, and I sailed southwest in search of another snow island. After taking out a smelly tower, I began eating sardines. But it doesn't let you eat if you're at full health, so I jumped from a height to take fall damage, which allowed me to munch so many fishies. I cleared some more of the riffraff before continuing my sardine eating rampage, and before long I had the all-important achievement. I then ventured into another keystone dungeon. This one featured a mega spawner close to the entrance, from which enemies were constantly emerging. Above were 3 healing braziers, which meant I wasn't able to destroy the spawner. I was gonna have to fight my way through and extinguish the braziers first. I entered the ring of fire, but the ring itself lacked fire, although there were some blue flames in the middle of the ring, so I guess I'll allow it. Beyond the ring, I extinguished the first of the braziers. In another direction, I found Electric Avenue 2, which featured some blue flame maniacs. These guys weren't too much trouble, as long as you didn't let them push you off the precipice. Another flame extinguished. I then somehow ended up in Barlin's tomb, where they had a cave troll, which was a bit intense as it featured a heavily armored troll and 3 healing demon murlocs. You may recall I'd picked up an enchantment that caused void essence to heal me, but of course something has to die to drop the void essence, so it wasn't the best. I soon took out the 3rd brazier, and the spawner was vulnerable, and I just wailed on it with my normal axe attack, which was an unusual opportunity for me to practice my crit timing. Soon it was dead, and the dungeon was done. I claimed the Oni braces and activated the keystone. I immediately cursed it and got back in there. This time I went to Balin's tomb first, and it was double cave troll shenanigans. Boromir would have lost his mind.
I know, dude, I'm stuck. What the hell?
I was more careful on the next attempt, and the Ring of Fire didn't give me any trouble, but this encounter was way harder. They'd added a bunch of worms with a spiderweb of electricity between them, and a tower in the middle to go along with the flaming pew-pew frogs. It was a little crazy, and I had to pop a few of the big healing potions.
This is ridiculous.
I'd gotten through the uncursed dungeon relying on purely cooked meat heals, but with the cursed intensity, I figured some of those potions I'd crafted belonged on my action bars, and just as well. But then I encountered a bug. I drank multiple potions in a row, but I remained on about 3 health.
Dude, heal. Why are they not working?
But it's all good, there are only a couple of worm idiots left.
What?
Who gave the worm the martyrdom perk? When I tried again, I was still unable to heal, so that wasn't gonna work. I returned home, and though the healing had decided to bug out, ultimately I was a big fan of the potions, so I made sure to keep them brewing. I put Fortify on my boots to add +1 armor, and while waiting for some potions to brew, I did a little bit of decorating upstairs. Once 10 life potions were ready, I completed the third and final cooking quest. And you may recall I'd failed at the Act 2 dungeon a while back, which meant my Cursed Dungeons quest was stuck back in Act 2, and I was worried all the Act 3 and 4 Cursed Dungeons I'd done might not have counted to the quest, so I headed back there to get it over and done with. The hard part was the double void boars, but with plenty of potions and better armor and damage than during my last attempt, it wasn't too much trouble.
Yeah, that's a lot easier. A lot easier with the better gear.
That earned me an achievement. I picked up the spiked helmet and...
This is done. Please. Oh, good, it did. It remembered.
When I emerged, a harvest moon was in the sky.
Oh, wolf. Wolf! What the heck? It's a different type of wolf.
Apparently the tameable wolf only spawns during harvest moons, so I took the opportunity and placed down a trap baited with venison, and soon the wolf was mine. That was the animal tamer quest complete, but I chose to keep the red panda by my side. I upgraded my lumber mill to level 3, and I struck out in search of more snow islands, because I wanted more tungsten. I found a cherry blossom island instead, so I took the opportunity to grab some clay, and then I gave up and ended up at a different kind of snow island. One with a dungeon, but no tungsten. I probably could have mostly ignored these corrupted ballista towers, but they dropped a fair bit of void essence, so I took them all down before heading into the final keystone dungeon of Act 4. This also featured a mega spawner. The difference was, this one had big juicy blue veins connected to it, running off in various directions around the dungeon. To destroy the spawner, I was gonna need to get out whatever was on the other end of the veins. So I followed the blue line, and soon arrived at my first big blue pimple, which I popped with great aggression. There were plenty of enemies to take on along the way, but with room to maneuver, and the help of my recent defensive enchantments making me a little more tanky, I was having fun with it. 2 blue pimples popped.
We got the blue line.
There was some lightstone in here, so that was a bonus. I took out a 3rd pimple, and the 4th and 5th were quite close to each other. As was now tradition, I immediately fired up the cursed version, and it was also veiny and pimply, except purple. I hit level 31 while in here, and I should mention for context, I'm of course explaining very quickly how the dungeon went. But from activating the curse at the obelisk to taking the mega spawner down, it took me about 10 minutes total to fight through all the enemies and collect the paladin chest plate. I sailed the southern seas for a bit, trying to uncover the map, and I soon ended up back at the first snowy island I'd ever found, and I was pleased to see the tungsten had respawned. I kept exploring, but there wasn't much to find, until I found another cherry blossom island from which I stole clay.
Another bamboo island. For goodness sake.
Thankfully, just north of the bamboo was the 3rd and final tungsten snow island on the map. I was directly west by this point, so I'd swung pretty much all the way from the east, down south, and finally to here, where some more tungsten went into my belly. As I said, that was the 3rd and final tungsten island, but I didn't know that at the time, so I continued scouring the west and northwestern seas hoping for another. I eventually had a break to visit the quarry, which I upgraded to level 3, helping me complete the Outpost Mogul quest.
Oh, produces clay. Great. Under the sea, eating some cheese. Under the sea.
So it turns out the quarry is pretty good, producing clay and coal at level 3. But the fact that I spent ages searching for another tungsten island, only to find nothing but blue, was not so great.
I don't know if there are any more. This is madness.
I soon gave up and returned home to knock over some chores, including an absolutely enormous harvest. I now had the resources saved up to automate the water towers at my new fields, so I placed down a couple of pumps and windmills, and with that all of my watering was fully automated. I put fleeting on my pickaxe to make its special ability have a shorter cooldown, and I decided to take aggression off my hammer, making it do 10% less damage, but I replaced it with fleeting, so it could also benefit from a shorter ability cooldown. I visited the vendors and sold my produce, and I figured I might as well buy the sorcerer's set now, as it wasn't too expensive.
30% cooldown reduction, and then another 30% on my weapon. Cooldowns. Wait, what? There's no cooldown. It means there's no cooldown. Wait, what?
I think I had a good amount of cooldown reduction from my skill perks. So yes, my abilities now had literally 0 cooldown. But I didn't want the pathetic 4 armor the sorcerer set provided. So I put my Viking set back on to test the cooldowns.
But if I cycle the 2 skills with this, it's almost always off cooldown, right? If I go one and then next.
Basically, the ability animations were about the same duration as the cooldowns, so putting fleeting on the hammer was definitely a good choice. In the early hours of day 48, I arrived at the final dungeon of Act 4, and in I went to glory.
I don't know what Act 5 is gonna be, because what the heck? As soon as I... As soon as I arrived, I got a ballista bolt straight to the penis. That's good stuff.
Yeah, this dungeon randomly had a bunch of ballista towers with impeccably precise aim, right at the entrance. I took vengeance upon them for the damage they had inflicted to my lineage.
Dude, what is this place? What the heck? This is nuts. Look at that big thing. That's like a spider.
This dungeon got straight down to business. No dilly, no dally. Just a shot to the crotch and a big old void eater boss. She did indeed appear to be something of a spider, with half the legs, I guess. But a broodmother kind of thing was happening as little spiders were appearing to cause a ruckus. I'd brewed a good amount of green and red potions by this point, so I made use of those to stay healthy. And I wasn't sure if I should be targeting the spawners, but I figured I might as well knock over the ones on the ground. The ones up on the wall were a little hard to reach though. But it wasn't just the spawners sending little spiders at me. Big Mama proved capable of pooping out multiple medium-sized spiders. So things got a little spicy when they arrived, but my short hammer cooldowns served me well, as I smashed area damage out willy-nilly. She repeated her summoning a couple more times, and when they arrived they were quite organized, hitting me all at once, so I took an alarming burst of damage. In general, I killed them pretty quickly though, but this one lasted long enough to be eaten by its mama, which restored 500 of the boss's health.
He ate one, I think.
And she let out a big roar at this point, which I believe caused all the remaining nests up on the walls to explode into medium spiders, charging at me as a last hurrah. So this was quite a swarm.
There's so many now. No, don't eat them. Don't eat them. Don't eat them. They're not delicious. Haha, you do not eat them. Get some, buffhead.
I performed wonderful jumpy jumps to get all the wall void essence, and I helped myself to a ridiculous clump of 300 gold, a bunch of lightstone, and the Oni helmet too. I reached level 32 off that fight, so I picked up the final perk, earning an important achievement. And in an unusual twist, I did not immediately fire up the cursed version of that dungeon. I instead went home and began refining lightstone into lightstone dust, because although that boss fight had gone in my favor, I'd chugged quite a few potions, and I wanted to brew some more. And I'd used up all the lightstone dust I'd looted, so now I had to craft my own. The quest had told me to enter this final dungeon on my home island, so I went in search of it.
This thing, I forgot about this thing.
As you can see, 4 of the 5 stones were lit up, representing the 4 act dungeons I'd completed, and this warp was now active, so in I went. And suddenly, I was at the heart of the Lightstone.
Alright. Holy dooly, what the heck?
I'm guessing that right there is the heart of the Lightstone, but once again I was destined to activate some keystones in order to access it. Except for Act 5, the keystones weren't scattered throughout the world. They were all right here in this dungeon. I headed to the right first, where I entered the stronghold. This place was swarming with void beasts, and there were enormous spark towers shooting multiple orbs of lightning, so it was quite a war zone as they crashed down around me. Though they were signposted by enormous red circles, so they weren't particularly difficult to avoid. I fought my way through and knocked over all the towers as I went. I took on some spark worms, but made sure to roll away as soon as I hit them, because I didn't want a dead one to explode on me like earlier.
What is this big boy? 2 big boys. Oh dear.
These big boys were the finale of the stronghold, 2 armored void trolls. By this point, I wasn't blocking with my shield very much, because most of the fights were against quite a few enemies, and standing still blocking in front made me feel too vulnerable on the sides and behind me. So really I should have stopped using the spiked shield because it was almost doubling my roll cooldown, for no good reason. But it had served me well for so long, I stuck with it for now. Once the trolls were down, I thought I was done, but I needed to kill all of the enemies in the area, and apparently I'd missed a few. Once I'd cleaned them up, that was the first keystone activated. I next headed to the left, where I found the labyrinth. This sent me up onto a high path, which I may have fallen off a few times. I came up against a bigger version of the chunky monsters that shoot up spikes, and as we fought, a spark tower shot orbs of lightning at me. I took it out and proceeded to this platform, which featured my first encounter with upgraded demon murloc spawners. 4 of them total meant things got busy rather quickly, and these stronger murlocs are no joke.
Oh dude, this is hard.
And the rough thing was, upon death the entire encounter reset, so I had to fight through again. After getting comfortable against the Act 4 level of difficulty, these new challenges suddenly had me struggling once more. more.
Dude, what am I doing?
I definitely couldn't afford to stand still for more than a moment, and this is where I was punished for not adapting my gear setup a little bit. I definitely should have switched to the feather shield, because watching this back, I don't think I used block a single time in this entire fight. So the movement speed, and particularly the much shorter roll cooldown, would have been hugely helpful. As it was, I managed to stay dodgy, even with the longer cooldown, as I bounced from spawner to spawner, performing hit and runs with an absolutely enormous army of Murlocs chasing me. As the spawners fell, the horde in my wake was slowly whittled down, and I pulled out the victory.
You idiot.
I didn't want to risk falling in the lava if that buffhead got in my way, so I jumped for quite a while and used the booby trap to good effect.
This is crazy, dude. Why? Why is this happening to me? Ow.
This was rough, fighting on such a precarious path, knowing that if I died, I'd have to go back to the start and take on the whole thing again. So I was doing my best to be careful. I managed to clear the enemies and knock down the towers, and it appeared another fierce challenge awaited me. Except not really. For this fight, they'd bunched the spawners together, which meant I could kill them all at once with my hammer smashes. So this was much quicker than the last big platform.
I don't like fighting on these things. I should have brought a bow. I have my crappy bow.
The bow was indeed crappy, but it was better than risking a fall into the lava. So this Murloc became a pincushion, and I eventually proceeded to the final platform, which didn't seem too difficult. I made use of my shield against these guys, since I was hurting them all together, so that was some small redemption for the spiked shield. And finally, I had defeated the labyrinth and activated the second keystone. It was time for the final section, brimming with lava and aptly named the Pits of Hell. Fighting a worm spawner on a little island surrounded by lava wasn't my favorite, and this spawner ended up having way more health than I expected. I should mention, I was of course using plenty of potions to stay healthy throughout this entire dungeon.
That's a nightmare, man, because both my hammer skills kind of make me move a bit. Who's this big boy?
It's one of the ones with the impressive 3-flapped mouth, except fiery.
It's a fire one. That's sick.
Ultimately, it was a similar fight to what these big spike-producing fellas always offer, but the threat is definitely more intense when flames are erupting all over the place every time he does a ground pound. And so it continued, as I methodically cleared all of the enemies from each island. By the look of it, these levitating spark worms were an even tougher variety, and there was an upgraded version of the weird T-Rexes too. So once again, things were spicier and spicier. The biggest fight awaited me on a much larger battlefield, with multiple spawners, and...
2 of these big guys? Give me a break.
To echo what I've already said, I really should have gotten rid of my spiked shield. I needed the shorter dodge cooldown, but despite effectively nerfing myself by carrying a shield that provided more hindrance than benefit, I managed to stay healthy, thanks in large part to chugging many potions.
Ow. Oh, I'm out of potions. That's not good.
Yeah, that was my final red potion. The big red potions are a full heal, so having none of those left was a bit rough.
Kill all enemy. What didn't I... Oh, there's a bunch of dudes over there. What the heck? This at least heals 62. The ramen. Some juicy ramen. Just slurp the ramen mid-fight.
The ramen was a decent backup, providing 62 healing, and I was indeed forced to slurp up a couple as I took on this pack. But I wasn't done yet. I'd also missed a rather scary triple spawner set up over here, and by the look of it, they'd already been spawning before I even got here, because if I'm not mistaken, that is a rather disturbing army of hunchback slobber slashers. And this is what happens if you don't use lateral movement to bamboozle their attacks.
Dude, no way! Oh, you idiot. Come on, bro. What was that?
Yeah, those were the last few enemies of the entire massive area, and now I had to do the whole dang thing again. I was not smart enough to switch shields, so I was still nerfing my dodge cooldown like an idiot, but I was a bit smarter, as I avoided giving them all a straightforward target by ensuring I always zipped sideways a little to throw their lunges off. And so I successfully cleared the area. But I hadn't left it till last this time, so I still had a fair bit to go. Lucky for me, I came up with some cheese. I wanted to minimize risk, so when I realized I was able to lure these silly gooses near the edge and attack them from the relative safety of the island, I did so. That made the final 2 sections significantly easier, as I was able to take out a couple of the big fiery beasts without putting myself at risk. And so it was that I conquered the Pits of Hell and activated the 3rd and final keystone.
What kind of abomination will burst forth?
It appeared the light orb thing here was no longer bound by the keystones.
The altar is not what you think. We believed the light alone was guiding us to salvation, but we were deceived, tricking us into building this sanctuary and something. You must fully defeat the Lightstone Heart once and for all, or our world will fall into eternal darkness. Shadow cannot exist without light. True. You know what I should have done? I should have got all of the language unlocked before I tried to read that message. Oh no. What have I done?
And so began my battle against the Lightstone Heart. It shot out spinning walls of light. It shot out many massive orbs of electricity, and I soon worked out that to deal damage, I had to get in close and unleash some big slaps. What I didn't realize immediately was that when you stand near it for too long, you start taking extreme zap damage.
Oh, I'm taking so much damage.
I now made sure to dodge back after every attack, and I felt like the health bar was dropping heaps fast, so as far as I could tell, I was absolutely owning. When I soon took the lower health bar down to 0, I learned what was actually going on.
Now I'm doing like no damage. Oh, okay.
When it's in the air, it cannot take true damage, but once you get it to fall, it's vulnerable. So once it's down, you gotta whip out all the damage you can.
I think just getting crits with my hammer is the best damage. Oh dude, this is different.
These new attacks were more disruptive, slowing down my damage as I tried to bring the boss back down to earth once again. But I soon afforded myself another opportunity to unleash on the defenseless heart. I'd almost never used normal attacks the entire playthrough because I was always dodging and weaving. But now was my time to get some practice in with crit timings, because it was definitely more damage than spamming the relatively slow special abilities.
I need to get my timings better.
Yeah, I wasn't having the best success rate with the crits. This next section was the same. More pulses and zappies, and then I channeled big crit energy.
Get them crits. Get them crits, baby. Nice. Oh, we got a whole light show.
This was certainly a visual spectacle, but ultimately it was just a busier version of how the fight started. I had to be a bit more precise with my movements, but before long the heart sunk back down once more. And once again, the crit success rate was a bit disappointing. But the boss's health fell to about 20%. And then things got crazy.
Oh gosh. What is going on? It's sucking me in? What the hell? What the hell's going on? What? Excuse me? How am I supposed to deal with that? I had that and then it starts sucking me in. Definitely need to do a build without the shield. I definitely can't have the shield.
Finally, I had realized the spiked shield had to go. I needed to adopt a faster and more dodgy item build.
You know what? I probably should just been using this the whole time. Get this off my bars, man. I need the move speed and I need the rolls.
I got some more potions brewing, and I removed Vindication from my helmet because I'd spotted a juicy head enchantment that suited me much better. Another 15% roll cooldown reduction and 3% movement speed.
I can almost roll constantly. Almost. Not quite. I have no slime left. I definitely want to get some of those regen potions.
I investigated other armor options, but even though I bought a couple of Kabuto pieces, I ultimately decided to stick with what I was wearing. But as I mentioned, I needed slime in order to make more potions, so it was time for another mission in the caves. While down there, I took the opportunity to collect everything of value, but my main goal was slime. And I also wanted to explore thoroughly, because I had a feeling there were some items for 100% that I needed to find. I was also collecting mushrooms for the farming quest.
Wait, what? How is that count as 0 out of 150? I don't have mushroom seeds. Wait, what?
I was zooming through, trying to unveil the entire map as quickly as possible. I employed many outrageous builds in order to make it across treacherous gaps, which got rather ridiculous when I was trying to reach a high area over the void here.
Yeah, the bay window. The bay window gets an extra half a top. Easy, bro.
The map slowly revealed, and my thorough exploration eventually paid off when I found another ancient tablet. I was down here for so long I started hallucinating, as the slime turned pink for some reason. But seriously, I was down there for ages, over an hour. I eventually remembered to put my explorer's gear on, so that added even more movement speed and roll cooldown, meaning I was positively zippy. And you carry your running momentum into your jumps, so I found I was now able to easily clear gaps I'd have previously built a bridge over. I thought for sure I'd get a decorative item or something from this fancy area, but sadly no. But I didn't let that stop me. I kept on exploring, and eventually I found myself back at the location where I'd found the enormous slime cube way back when. But where the heck was it?
Is there not a giant slime here? Did I imagine a giant slime? No, there is a giant slime. Ah, what the heck? Screw you, giant slime. I can do big bonks too. You stupid cube.
This wonderful green beauty did almost 0 damage, but it sure did absorb a lot of damage. And eventually it broke down into 4 smaller cubes. And then each of those cubes broke down into 4 even smaller cubes. And so on.
So much lightning. Ah! Oh my gosh. Is my computer gonna explode?
This went on for quite a while, but eventually every little cube was squished into oblivion.
Do I even get anything for the glory of defeating the giant slime?
By the look of it, no. Just glory.
I know there's one more decorative item there. I don't think there are any more. I hope there aren't any more.
This gap here required me to magically build on the other side.
Oh, so close. What if we get a bay window on there? Easy bay window strats, don't worry about it.
And it turned out there was a slime related reward after all.
Slime hammer. Big and bouncy slime hammer to smack your enemies into another realm. Give me a slime hammer. Slime sucks.
I was expecting enemies to go flying off the screen, so that was a little disappointing. And after almost an hour and a half down here, I finally arrived at the relic I'd spotted on the map earlier, and I became literate. With that, I was quite confident there weren't any more secrets to find in the caves, so I took my leave. I'd collected over 300 slime on my journey, so I got some potions brewing. I googled the mystery of the mushrooms. Turns out harvesting wild mushrooms don't count. You've got to plant your own mushrooms in the caves. So I planted some. I harvested and replanted upstairs, and that was all the bananas done for the quest.
Stand in the fire and eat blueberries. It's just what we do.
Once I'd done that for a good stretch, I earned the Eat 50 Blueberries achievement. I bought the entire winter fur set for the collection, and I played quite a lot of blackjack down on Lucky Jack's ship. A lot of blackjack, because there are a few blackjack related achievements for some reason. One was to get blackjack 10 times. I got bored of that before long and headed to the Act 3 final dungeon, which I cursed and completed. This is the one that's a bit Tomb Raider-ish, with booby traps and all that, and the final boss was the Void Troll, except in cursed mode it was on fire. I slapped it silly.
Pretty easy. Pretty easy.
That earned me the last piece of the ancient set, and the third cursed dungeon quest was complete. I upgraded whatever weapons and tools I could afford, adding a few more things to the collection.
I'm not gonna have enough Damascus steel though. I somehow got 26 out of 50 mushrooms. I think it might have happened when I deconstructed this. Yeah, it confuses it. Okay, well I'm doing that then.
I had confused the game's mushroom counting system, which was great news.
Yeah, there we go. Quote unquote harvested those mushrooms. Ironically, they literally grew as soon as I watered them, so I didn't need to cheat, but anyway, I cheated.
I then revisited some snow islands to collect tungsten, because I needed a fair bit more in order to smelt more Damascus steel, and I stopped off at the Act 4 Keystone dungeon I'd failed in cursed mode earlier. This is the one where my potions had stopped healing me for some reason. You may recall, you're supposed to go down a few treacherous paths in order to extinguish the healing braziers above, but I wondered if perhaps I could just out-damage the heals. As my crit timing became more reliable, apparently yes.
I think I can. I think I can just brute force this. Just out-damage the heals.
So that was my quickest cursed dungeon yet, and I grabbed the paladin braces. I caught some squid, I collected a little more tungsten, and my metal refinery was under attack thanks to the harvest moon. But I thought for sure it'd be fine, considering the extensive defenses I'd put up earlier.
Dude, my metal refinery's losing.
But nope, it was defeated somehow. I put the tungsten I'd collected onto smelts, hoping it'd be enough, and I enjoyed another harvest.
Watermelon marigold, beautiful.
I soon learned that planting this many of one type of crop wasn't the best idea, because I could only fit 500 in my bag at a time. So a lot of this got left on the ground until I made space. After selling a ridiculous amount of produce, I had a fair bit of gold, so I bought the rest of the Kabuto set. But I was sadly 500 gold short of the katana. Some Damascus steel was ready, so I upgraded a couple of items, and then I realized the Damascus steel crafting quest was a bit stupid.
Why does it reset if I use it? That makes no sense.
I'd found a shortcut with the mushrooms, but I had been trolled by the steel, and I was gonna have to go find more tungsten once it respawned. I soon bought that katana for 2,500 gold, and I gave it a whirl. As expected, I preferred my hammer, so I ignored it.
I'm sticking with my big fat hammer.
By this point, I had 28 big red potions and 56 green potions, so I returned to take on the Heart of the Lightstone again. I was well stocked, and I also had an improved gear setup, thanks especially to the feathered shield making me quite fast and rolly. So I was hoping I'd be fine during the phase where it sucks you inward. I'd also gotten my wolf out, because apparently the wolf attacks enemies.
Do some damage, wolf, you idiot. Oh, it's this phase. Big damage. Big damage. Big damage.
Before long, the boss had dropped dangerously low, so it entered its most dangerous phase.
Is this where it sucks you in? Yeah. This is where it sucks you in. Just gotta, like, get away. Okay, I survived it, I think.
My roll having basically no cooldown came in clutch, and on the next suctiony bit, I made a break for it in advance, and found refuge.
I'm safe out here? That's overpowered.
I had my turn attacking the levitating heart, and once it dropped down, I had a pretty good streak of crits, and that was victory.
Woo! Okay, that was kind of trivial. It's actually quite trivial with a faster dodge just to get out. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of delicious light. My pet panda. Go pick up the light panda. Go, you glorious beast. Why did it meow? The red pandas meow?
Act 5 was complete, and I was crowned with light.
What is this? Lightstone Crown. 100% elemental damage blocking. That's kind of crazy.
I popped it on my head, and it looked quite sharp.
I've defeated the light, which seems like the opposite of every single archetype.
Clearly, light corrupts into darkness. There's no shadow without the sunshine. Something like that. I wasn't really playing this game for the story. All that matters is that my crown was quite spiky.
Wait, what the heck? I just fell into a hole. This game was made in Queensland. Old mate lives where I live. How about that?
I then did some Googling to help me find a few items.
I think I need to use this treasure map. What is that depicting? That There's definitely that. Alright, looks like it was quite a glorious defense. The monsters got through this way, obviously.
I had to mine this random spot to get the wrecked chest plate. I found the wrecked braces here, right next to where I'd found the chopper earlier. Not sure how I missed them the first time. And I found the wrecked greaves on another random island. That was the third explorer quest complete.
Oh, now we gotta do flaming fishing again.
I still had trauma from the time I ate 50 raw sardines in the span of 2 minutes. Nonetheless, I immediately got busy catching fugu. It took quite a while to get 10. I then went to the caves and targeted anglerfish. Once I had 10, I took a break from fishing and fired up the cursed version of the Act 4 boss, the Armored Void Eater. I decided to try and kill all the nests on the wall this time, and the big mama was rather tanky, so the fight dragged on for ages, especially once she started eating her babies.
He's got so much health, man. Oh, and then it eats one for 750 health back. It's crazy.
It was hard to kill the babies quick enough because they took a few hits, but I kept at it. I downed plenty of potions to keep me healthy and eventually took the victory. I claimed the Paladin helmet as reward, and that was the Act 4 Cursed Dungeons complete. All that was left was the Heart of the Lightstone. Okay, time for more fishing. 10 tuna and 10 squid later, I'd completed the final Explorer quest.
This fisherman's hat might be the final one. It is.
A huge achievement, and that also finished off the completionist quest for reaching day 50, fully upgrading my backpack, finishing the skill tree, collecting all the armor, and finding all the exotic items. Finishing that completionist quest gave me a ridiculous 10,000 gold as reward, so I began buying all the decorative items, beginning with some from the fisherman's store, and then I did my best to gamble the rest of the money away. I eventually earned the very wholesome achievement to lose 500 gold playing blackjack, and a couple of minutes later I earned my 10th blackjack. I bought a couple more decorative recipes from the gardening store. I bought heaps of decorative recipes from the shop in Tarragon Town, and quite a few from Shavar as well.
Unlock every decoration item. Boom.
I discovered I could buy a brazier blueprint here, which wasn't a decoration. It was my 24th collectible, and I now had just one more collectible to go. Google helped me to find the 25th, this random wood plane recipe that I was able to buy at the lumber yard. And I think I may have been procrastinating, but it was about time I did the final dungeon in cursed mode. I started with the stronghold, and you know the drill. I squished lots of void beasties. Because I had stocked up on heaps of potions, I didn't have too much trouble. And I think a big part of the reason it was smoother was because this time I wasn't using my spiked shield. So I had a way shorter dodge cooldown that kept me nimble. Though I did feel like I was a bit weaker, like I was taking extra damage somehow. And then I realized.
The Lightstone Curse. Okay, that's what it is. 50% less armor and 25% less damage.
I took on the Pits of Hell next, and watching back, I was almost entirely silent the whole time. I guess I was concentrating. I didn't have too much trouble. I employed some cheese attacking the nerds from across the lava, and that was 2 out of 3 keystones. Last up was the Labyrinth, and you may recall this fight here had been tricky last time round.
300 idiots chasing me.
But I was in the rhythm of avoiding their attacks, so I got there eventually, once the spawners finally died. And things got a little too spicy for me when I was trying to clear these guys, so I leapt off, popped a potion, and only just survived the fall damage. When I took on that same spawner again, I in fact did die. But fortunately my revive perk gave me a second chance and I was able to carry on. After shooting at an idiot, that was all 3 keystones activated.
This helmet says 100% elemental resistance. Surely I'll just take literally 0 damage from this boss.
Yeah, my impression was this boss only dishes out electric damage, which is a form of elemental damage, so I figured this helmet was going to keep me completely safe. And that was pretty much true. I took some damage, but it was negligible.
So this is trivial because this boss gave me an insane helmet against this boss. Get him, Wolf! Get him! Get the ball! Fetch!
Yeah, so this was easy.
Cursed dungeons all complete. Huge. That's all of the cursed dungeons complete. The tungsten still hasn't respawned, dude.
So that was a bummer, but at least I was able to do this.
That was good timing. I was just going for the dyed a tree achievement, and I happened to spawn the bees, which I think have a really small chance to spawn when you chop down a tree. I happened to spawn them on the very last tree, trying to overcome my natural regeneration by having as many trees fall on my head as possible. Kill me! It missed me again. What the heck? There it is. Beautiful. Killed by bees, killed by a tree. It's actually more common to die to bees. Seriously? So I'm waiting until I get 3 more Damascus steel, but for that I need tungsten, and the tungsten just seems to refuse to respawn.
I killed some time decorating upstairs, setting up a sitting area, a nook for the bed, and I slapped down every decorative item I had available to try and make this as nice as possible.
Alright, well, I think that looks good. Big old double bed, double bed. Fish tank with absolutely nothing in it, even though I put 5 fish in it.
Very lovely, very cozy, very warm. Can't go wrong. I also had some outdoor decorative stuff at my disposal, so I figured I should try to find a way to make use of them. I used ornate building pieces to make this setup here, and soon it was looking quite nice.
Got the little gazebo or something rather. Looks like the place to chill. The base is done. It's pretty sick. It's actually pretty sick. The farm is cool. When you get the low angle, it's actually quite glorious. except for all the wood that I chopped down in the background, highlighted. It looks ridiculous. But if you ignore that, the low angle of the property looks pretty glorious.
Yeah, not bad at all. And the tungsten had reappeared, so I took my fill and sat around waiting for it to smelt.
Okay, now this is finally done.
I used the steel to upgrade the final 2 items, and that was it.
Unlock every weapon. 31 out of 31. 100% complete.
All the recipes had been unlocked too, and most importantly, I had a ridiculously big farm.